What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Smoooth Conversations. I am your boy Smooth, of course. Thank you all for tuning in. Sorry for the late start, but we're here and it's going to be an amazing show and it'll be worth the wait. For those watching for the first time, thank you very much. Go ahead and while you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, click on that bell, share this with others. We want to get all the people tuned in for what's going to be one of the most anticipated shows that I've been looking forward to doing since I've had this show. This is going to be a very special night. Be able to reunite with someone who I haven't seen in quite some time. And we definitely have some stories to tell and some life lessons and everything that we're going to share tonight. We're smooth conversations, but the conversations are always smooth. Once again, get them likes, get them shares going. Also, leave comments, leave questions. Your questions will be shown on the screen. You will be famous tonight, courtesy of yours truly. And I'm not going to hold it because y'all been waiting long enough. I ain't going to hold anyone else any longer. This woman here, trailblazer. She is an MC. She is a host. She is a DJ now doing her thing. And as I said in the promo, she has a deep connection and passion for the community. She is an advocate for better things in life. She does so much. And she's also a Scorpio, y'all, just like yours truly. And we're going to talk about a lot of things. And I look forward to this conversation. Hope you are too. It's time to bring on someone who I call a friend, a sister, InnerGy. Come on in. What's happening?
With an introduction like that,
Jeez
Louise.
Thank you. She is here, rocking the brand, doing what we do, you know?
Yes, absolutely. What we do. What do we do?
Maybe do we do everything?
That's what I feel like. We
Scorpios just do everything.
We just be doing stuff.
And when I found out that you were a Scorpio and seeing you behind the scenes, seeing you on stage, seeing you after, whatever. It's like, I see why we're similar in regards to like how we hustle.
Absolutely. And how we love.
Exactly. And also, which is big, is how we love to collaborate.
Yes.
We love to do that. So before I even go there, how have you been doing?
I'll give you a short version. I've been good.
Good.
I've been good. First, it's been a minute since we sat down.
How long has it been? Like a couple years? About 2-3 years?
Oh my God. It could easily have been a few years.
Yeah, because I want to say the last time we saw each other was before I got married.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So definitely has been almost 3 years in.
Yes.
Yeah. In which we had a time frame for 6 years where we saw each other every week. Right. Sometimes twice a week, having business meetings, whatever it is.
Whatever needs to happen to make that.
Let's see, we got comments. Here we go. Got a comment on YouTube. 1028 Scorpio.
Okay, come through, Scorpio gang.
There we go. Scorpio in the house. It's a Scorpio party during Virgo season.
That part.
Shouts out to my wife because she's a Virgo.
Okay.
Her birthday is actually Thursday.
Oh.
And my daughter.
Oh, shoot.
They share birthdays together.
Oh, I guess you know where it is on Thursdays. That's for sure. They having a Virgo bash.
Where?
Yes, where it is. Third is Thursday.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
So, I was over at the cigar lounge.
You know what they were looking? They looking for a Virgo DJ, but I guess you Virgo by proxy.
Right.
You very Virgo by marriage.
Right there it is. But man, like we said, 6 years that we've done some amazing things consistently every Tuesday night. Just been an amazing time. And before we begin, let's do the official toast because
Yes, sir.
This is called Danger. I have an official name for this drink called Danger, my recent concoction. And InnerGy is trying it out. We about to go ahead.
I can already certify this delicious. Y'all see me took a sip.
There it is.
But yes, officially cheers. Thank you.
Cheers to us. Cheers to our friendship, our brotherhood, sisterhood thing going. And just for many more blessings for us. Damn. There you go.
Official sip. There we go.
Official sip.
Yes.
It's time to get it popping. So let's tell for those who don't know and who's smooth, you did WordUp. Let's talk about how everything started.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm gonna just start my portion off, and then I
ahead.
want you to finish everything off because you can probably explain even more than me, or I'll just add on. But I was at work, and I remember the whole scene like it was yesterday. I was in the hallway about to give me a snack, and then I had this phone call, and I'm like, who's this? Let me see. And so he was like, hello, my name, tell me your name and everything. And you said you got my information from Emcee. And I guess you were looking for a DJ because you wanted to start up something special. Didn't have a name to it.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I'm hearing you. And I still wasn't sold yet. But then I start feeling through the conversation like she really wants to do something different from everyone else. And you had a positive purpose, an impactful purpose to what you wanted to do.
Yes, sir.
And when I felt that, I was like, you know what? I'm aboard. And the reason why I was hesitant at first is because I knew I was coming up as a DJ. So I was, trying to get my own lane going. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't sure if the spoken word, what's where I'm going to say, the spoken word realm would have been something that I would have wanted to get into. Mm. But like I said, from the conversations we had, I was like, you know what? I can tell this is someone who is for real about her stuff. Because you got people who come up with all these ideas that, I want to do this, but then they don't follow through on it. But I felt something was different. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to roll with it. We didn't know how much money we're going to get each week, whatever it was. But it was just about putting ourselves out there and providing people the opportunity to showcase what they have. And boom.
Let me tell my version.
Now,
let me tell my version of how this happened.
Let's go.
And so, way before we ever met, I had been doing some grassroots community organizing. I really wanted to figure out what was going on in St. Louis, why St. Louis was the way that it was, having such a high homicide rate, trying to figure out what's going on with these Black families. Really just could not put any finger on one thing. But what my interests aligned me with were people who were making an impact within the community. And that's when I discovered Cabana on the Loop. At the time, this is when the Del Mar looked totally different. No trolley, no Asian restaurants every 2 shops. It was a huge bread company that people would like to go to organize and meet up. And so I just felt like it became overcrowded. Mm-hmm. I just felt like unless you got there early, you couldn't really move around, or, even the Wi-Fi would be bogged down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's got to be more spaces up and down the loop where you can go and just have a good meal and be able to link up with your friends and have serious conversations. And so I'm walking down Del Mar, and at where is now Prime 55.
Right.
It used to be called Cabana on the Loop. It was owned by a Muslim couple. And I went in there and was just kind of shocked. I was like, okay, this is wholesome. They got a cereal bar. They don't sell alcohol. They're a small, spot, but they're looking to, make their mark, and really could have used some marketing, some help. But I was more so interested in strong Wi-Fi connection and an intimate space where I could have some conversations.
Right.
So I had been going up there for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks by the time I'd held a couple of, I wouldn't even call them events. I just was meeting people up there. Seriously, it was like my office. Mm-hmm. And they stopped me and asked me one day as they were breaking down what I do. And I couldn't really tell them what I do, because professionally I hadn't quite settled. But I did feel like there was a power in gathering. Mm-hmm. And of course, when you gather a lot of people in a space, they want to support whatever space that they're in. And so I thought to myself, it would be nice to be able to keep bringing people into this space so they would know more about it. Mm-hmm. And then also to, keep having these healthy conversations here, because people are supporting the establishment, they're eating here, they're drinking, I just felt like it was a great thing. And so because they felt the impact, they really wanted to see how they could pull me in and get me more involved. And that's when the owner, he said, well, what do you think about having a night here? I was like, I wouldn't even know where to start. Mm-hmm. I said, but if you allow me to have a meeting, we could see what happens with that, and we'll take it from there. So I did a community call to action. I wanted to have a serious conversation. We decided to host it there. The news channel showed up, and it was a big deal, right? Yeah. It was a very big deal. And so they were like, well, they were just shocked. They were like, if you bring this many people out, we need you to do this consistently.
Yeah.
But I really didn't know where to start. And we didn't have a DJ. We didn't have microphones. It was really just, a group of concerned community citizens that wanted to have conversations. But I did feel like it left us exposed, having cameras and things there. So if we said anything, how they could be conveyed, or, it just was, I was feeling like we're on the right track. We ain't quite there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it did need something, but I didn't quite know what it was until I showed up after the event. I showed up the next day, and they had decided to show me the rest of the space. And that's when I saw the basement area and all that going on. And I was like, okay, this is really nice. Why don't you use the downstairs area? He's like, well, we don't quite. And I said, well, I think that it would be cool. You tell me to keep doing stuff here. I think it'd be cool to activate this basement space if you would accommodate us. I think that would be a good call. And so I basically, but I'm looking at what's going on down here. I said, this needs some music or something, right? Yeah. And I'm looking at these business cards that are all kind of in this little area because they had they had the chalk walls and all that in there at the time. And so I saw the people leaving the business cards there, and lo and behold, there was a Smoooth production card right there on the counter. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so you said Emcee. I'm like, I don't know if I ever. Yeah, because I don't think I knew Emcee before I started the open mic. I didn't know a lot of people prior to.
I feel like for some reason you asked about me, and then that's how that happened. I didn't even realize my card was there at the
business card was on the counter at the bar, and I said, you know what? I'm off a whim. Spirit led me to call you up to see if you had any availability. I also knew, that with people being in the mix and being outside, that it was going to be hard pressed to get people to gather on a Friday night or Saturday night. You all were going to get certain types, and I didn't want the opinions and the conversations to be limited to a certain type of individual. Because again, we needed all voices at the table to figure out how we were going to move forward. And fixing some problems in St. Louis.
Right.
So. The Tuesday was like our pilot, and when you were available, I said, well, we just gonna go for it. So you came in to see what the attachments looked like, how the setup was gonna go.
And there you go.
And I had no idea. This is the first. No, this is actually the second flyer.
Right. The second one, right.
The first flyer was definitely not nowhere near as fancy either. But we didn't quite know what was going to show up, who was going to show up, what was going to happen. We just knew that we wanted to see if we opened up the space for people to be able to speak, and we created it as an event instead of it being like, a meeting, a board meeting or something like that would change the energy. And then of course having music was going to set the tone. And that will allow us to, it will feel like we were kicking it more than anything, but also it be impactful, it be meaningful. And we be able to have critical conversations. So boom, we had that first Tuesday night, and I was like, all right. We was giving away a free smoothie or shake.
Yeah. And also shouts out to Sir Azariah.
Yes, Azariah King. Now, I definitely have to say, so here I am, being Miss Friendly Bob, kicking it, chilling at the space, and it was drawing folks in there, so looking at more people coming in. I can't even say he came in off of any of my efforts at all. I just think that he was drawn into the space. I'm sure you could tell how he ended up in the cabana at that time too. But he was giving me a lot of insight on what the poetry scene was like. And he felt like that would just be a great way to bring in people who are already saying things that were activating folks. One thing about poetry is like, as a phonetic tool, as a art form, it is such a powerful. Look, if you learn how to wield your words and your tongue and your presence better than anyone can sing, better than anyone can rap, better than anyone can dance or whatever, poetry will have people arrested. They will be in their seats absorbing whatever is being put out there.
Right.
Okay. And so I felt like there was a spark with that, but I feel like it didn't end there. And matter of fact, to prove me right, Timothy McGimsey was the first music artist we ever had at our open mic, because he came through. I don't know if he had keys, if he had brought his piano, the guitar. Okay, yes. And we just like, where'd he come from?
Yeah. I'm like, who this John B?
But he was so chill. Like he was such a vibe. And I felt like his musicality was something that absolutely was necessary. And just how it lightened the mood and lightened the tone, and it allowed people to get out of their comfort zones just a little bit better and to settle into the subject matter a little bit better. But I never even considered how, when we have these heavy conversations, how much relief, some music or something, does to allow folks to do whatever they need to do spiritually to connect with what's happening. It just, it took on a life of its own. Once that first week of Tuesday, that first Tuesday, and then they say their first month rolled out, I was like, okay, we need to get out into the community. We need to let people know about this.
Yeah.
We need to talk to everybody and see who we can pull in. And I found some kids on the street corner rapping, gave them flyers, and y'all, I think that one thing, and I'm talking to y'all out here, I think one thing that is really has been instrumental to our growth, is that we never shied away from inviting everybody.
Right.
Young, old, handicapped, however, we all have a voice here. We're all a part of this community together, and we can only fix what's going on here if we come together and admit that there's something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because that was the underlining purpose of the event, I think that that's what kept us, even when we hit that snag, when we had to leave out of the cabana, that's what helped us have the confidence to pivot and jump into another location right away, so that we wouldn't stop the momentum.
And with that being said, I want to give a shout out to Legacy Books, because when I knew that we were in a jam, like, okay, what can we do next? I was like, well, hey,
you can't then save the day with that one.
I've been doing some stuff with Legacy, way back then, when every Friday night, Legacy used to be jam packed to the wall, parking lot full. Even if I was a performer or whatever, I had to find a spot to park on Delmar Street, not in the lot, but on actual Delmar, just to find a parking spot. And so I already had a good rapport with Mr. Nix and the family. So I'm like, well, hey, I'm in the bind. I got this dope spoken word event. We need a venue. And without hesitation, they was like, we got you.
And without a hesitation, literally, like immediately. I feel like it happened the same night.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because we had another location locked in, and something fell through with the arrangements, and we were literally standing at the door, and we're like, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like 2 hours. I want to say it was like maybe like an hour or 2 hours before people were going to start showing up. And I just was looking like, I don't even know how this happened. This is crazy. But as soon as John was like, come on down.
Yeah.
He was like, okay, well, I guess this is happening.
Let's go.
And it was like, from that day on, Legacy was the place to be again. And I think that was something that, as the years went on, we learned more about the foundational poetry nights that they had and the type of artists that would gather there. And it even, us having the Tuesday night drew in some of those folks who, I won't say they fell off the scene at all, but they just kind of no longer had that same space to come to anymore. And so when they found out that it was a Tuesday and not a Friday, they was like, oh, y'all do this on Tuesday now? And I'm like, well, I don't know nothing about the first group that was affiliated, but we're welcoming everybody to come.
Right.
And this is a neutral ground. It's a neutral space. We stand out of all that extra stuff,
like
that don't have nothing to do with us. We're trying to, really do some things, but I don't think that there was a clear vision then for where staying consistent with the Tuesday nights was going to take us. I don't think that there was a clear vision then.
And as you speak about it, sorry for cutting you off.
No, go ahead.
But what also drew people in was they didn't feel the pressure of they had to be great to be there.
For sure. And don't get me wrong, like, there are some legacy poets here in St. Louis that absolutely have pens that, that are undeniable, and deserve all of the flowers and all the respect, because they are those ones who laid the groundwork for a lot of, what a lot of us today are doing.
Right.
But I think that what it did also allow was for us to learn more about that and to pay homage to that where we could.
Mm-hmm.
But without making it about something that was already done before, but moving it forward with our own spin on it.
Right.
Because I can't say that I'd ever been to an open mic prior to starting, doing our thing. But when I did start doing that research and I did start checking out some of the spots that literally, like, as we were popping up, some other spots were dying off.
Right.
So Mocha had the In Spot. That's where I met Willie C. Shisha on Manchester was doing like some open mic type stuff as well. I learned a lot about maybe like 2 other locations, the Red Sea, and another spot. And I was like, wow, like we couldn't have popped up at a more opportune time
Right.
because people are losing spaces where they can express themselves, and they're losing opportunities to make connections and build, networks and support
Right.
their family. And so this is like a great opportunity for, some fresh energy to step up, and be, be present. And I actually wasn't even energy then.
Exactly.
I know, right?
Exactly.
I don't think I fully embraced a stage name until we got to Legacy.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I recall the conversation, we was like, what should we even call the the spoken word event? We kind of was playing around with words.
It was called
whatever.
Open Mic at the Cabana on the Loop. Like it wasn't even a name for it until we moved to Legacy either. You're sure right.
And then you were just like,
I meditated on it heavy. I did.
Like word. I'm like, okay.
But right. And I feel like the name came about because I was like, well, what are we doing? What is our focus? Our focus is on expression, and people are using words as expression, but we want to always keep words elevated, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, how do I say words, elevated words? And I'm like, okay, we could make it this thing, but it just is simply word up. I said, okay, I can say that and feel like people will get the gist. And it's catchy. I just felt like people could get the gist of that. Like we didn't have to over explain it. It was what it was, but we did have a tagline then. So it was word up, spoken word, open mic. Mm-hmm. Because we didn't want people to think that it was limited to poetry. Right. But I think Legacy, our capability at Legacy, because we have more space at Legacy, allowed us to see more musicianship. Mm-hmm. And that's when I learned more about, some more folks that you were connected with in the musical realm. And so to be able to accommodate them with something like a stage and, all this space that we could, coordinate and rearrange. But man, it was like a playground for me.
That was so much fun. Like, before the show, you coming in and you be like focused, like, okay, get these chairs up here. Listen. Smooth, no, put over here. I'm like, cool, let's go, whatever. Bro,
but yeah, I was in my creative zone.
The people who don't really see, and this is why I love doing shows like this, because they see what you're doing on the outside.
They do.
But they don't realize
the level of detail and really the amount of work on the back end that goes into putting on
that journey production. Right. You know what I'm saying? That journey of getting to where you want to get to. That's the beauty of it all. I mean, I recall we had conversations on the weekend or whatever. I'll meet you somewhere or whatever, and we just have long conversations about
what we're gonna do.
What can we do to,
because you want to keep it fresh.
Right,
yeah, we want to keep it fresh. You wanted people to stay engaged with it. We had opportunities to highlight people and important people that were in the community doing great things, artists, poets, musicians. And so I think that after that first year at Legacy, we felt a lot more comfortable in where we were going. We still didn't quite have a locked in vision, but we knew we had folks that were in the community that were showing up. We knew that those folks in the community had great talent. And if we could, emphasize that talent in a way that both uplifted us and uplifted them, then it was just a win-win.
Yeah.
So that was actually a beautiful journey because it was teaching me more about myself artistically. And y'all got him sitting over here acting like he's just a DJ, but I found out that he a whole drummer, okay, had all these extra skills, okay, all the stuff behind the scenes, didn't even know. But I will say the number one thing that set us apart as well when it came to our vibe is how smooth you were. Mm. I mean, look, it takes a very, and this is of course now having had to this day 5 or 6 DJs over the 9-year span, that there's a certain intuition and select. You have to be a certain type of selector when it comes to curating a vibe that you brought that no one that came after you was able to provide the same way. And so to be able to, let's say if I'm a poet and I just got on stage and I just said something heavy. I mean, I just went in on, my grandpa and my daddy and my uncles and my cousins. And I'm this broken person trying to build my life back up. And I'm bleeding all over everybody in the room. And it's tears and it's, people trying to figure out how to feel, and you would just be able to come with the perfect song to help break through that emotional fog and allow us to transition properly into the next artist. And I don't think people quite understood the value of being able to have somebody that would be able to intuit a song like that, because you had a wide selection of music to
Yes.
pull from. I mean,
Yes.
and you always was surprised. You never stuck with one genre. You never really stuck with one particular sound.
Right.
You even surprised folks, especially when we realized how diverse our space was,
Right.
and who all would come out. So that would really shock people that you could, you had mixes that will allow you to cater to all races and age groups. And I just felt like, at the time I as a DJ, this is me giving you flowers as a DJ for sure. But at the time I felt like going to the other spaces, we were also doing something that no other event was doing.
And I appreciate that, because that's something that I prided myself on, is that I wanted to separate myself from others in regards to, yes, I listened to each spoken word artist, each whoever was on the stage. I was honed in, and it was like, oh, okay, you talking about feeling happy. Let's say now I will play Because I'm Happy. You know what I'm saying? I just took pride in wanting to make that performer know that, hey, we're all listening. So I want to continue that same vibe. So that's what I always pride myself on every week, is I want people to realize, like, oh man, this dude straight up played this after he or she said that. And I've had so many comments from artists or people who just come to the shows and be like, yo, I saw what you did there. And that made me feel good, because, like, definitely, that's my way of putting my footprint in what we
absolutely
have in WordUp.
Absolutely. And I think that people those who came in those early years would remember just how instrumental, that gift was to, not even just allow artists to feel comfortable and like, people are actually listening to them in the performance, but also for the audience enjoyment. Somebody might not have made a full connection with what was said, but that transition music absolutely mattered, especially if you play something that we all can get into,
right,
because sometimes you needed that little break where everybody can get up and move around, or, just whatever that could be. And that was great. I think that dynamic helped us stay very strong and tight knit, especially when we hit that upgrade. Because, baby, when we moved up out of Legacy after the third year,
yeah,
and we got a taste of what, a larger stage, a real established larger stage looked like. It was on. It was on
and popping.
It was like we did so I think what happened was we did the Jill Scott tribute, and it went, and that was the first time we ever seen it go viral. Yes, that was the first time we ever seen the event go viral, because we were using social media a lot more.
Right.
And Legacy was like at capacity. Like, they just didn't even know what to do. We didn't know what to do, because I'm like, I had never seen an event that I had put together have so many shares, and to have 3,000 people say they're coming. I'm like, that's a joke.
Right. Like, come on, y'all. You know how they always say, well, they say they coming, but they really ain't, for real.
I was just like, what is happening? It was people there before we could even set up. It was just like so much going on. And so it was so refreshing to be able to step into this larger space where we could accommodate
at the time.
Yes, Patois at the time, where we could accommodate so many guests, and we can have visual artists as well. We had that upper balcony, so you definitely had your established area where you was kicking it.
You didn't have to come up. I mean, I was in my own area, doing my own thing. I had my own hookah.
Literally.
Shouts out to Tez, because he the one who came with the hookahs when he had his hookah business at the time, and he hooked us up every week. Did. But yes, look at that haircut.
Wow. Throwbacks for sure.
Yeah, I saw these. I was like, yeah, she gonna love these photos. Now, but that was the vibe. Like you said, every Tuesday night, people came out, and I had to say, for me, that was the best stretch, I feel, because of the vibe, and because, like I said, just having my own space up top. If you see on your screen, for those watching, I was on the top right. You can't see it right now because I got the thing in the way, but still. It was just the perfect stage. We had so much room. Food was good. Had the hookahs. It was just a cool vibe, and it was a good location because
it was centrally located. Exactly. Right there on Wash Ave.
Exactly.
And it was a location that had its own reputation, because prior to being Patois, it was the Rusted Goat.
Right.
And so the capacity of that space was like 500 people.
Right.
And so now enters Lewis Confliction, because I had no idea how I was going to juggle hosting and producing and features and all this stuff. And so I needed help. And of course, now, doing this going on, 3-4 years, we had a lot of names, a lot of folks, who were still doing incredible work. And one thing that was really interesting was that although I had never seen Lewis at Legacy, it was his Friday, that really had established, or at least begun to be the established, vibe at Legacy that grew that audience and had that vibe ongoing for so long.
Right.
And so we did pop up literally right as that was like over. And, not trying to get all into the back end, because I still, even to this day, don't even know the full logistics of what happened before we showed up. But I was at high school with Lewis. I met Lewis at church.
Okay.
And he was in choir. He just was a big ball of energy and always respectful and always sweet and kind. And growing up with him and going to high school with him, I was just like, wow, like I know him the whole time and never knew that he was living this other life where he had an incredible pen and, was writing poetry.
Talent, man.
Exactly.
One of the most talented dudes of the people I've ever came across, man.
Hands down. So when I reached out to him about teaming up, I knew that I was going to be hard pressed to get him to come to Legacy. But as soon as we got out of Legacy and into Patois, I said, well, hold up, let me call him back. And I had a conversation with him about it and just basically let him know I needed him. Like, I don't think I would want to do this with anybody else.
Yeah. And of course, I've done plenty of things with him in the past at Legacy. We used to play my old band, the Immortal Soul Era. We used to do some stuff, with him, playing his music and everything. So we already had a rapport with him as well. I did as well. So as soon as you said Lewis, I'm like, oh, this should put us on a whole different scale even more, because you talk about elevation.
I had no idea. I'm moving off of intuition and spirit.
I was like, wait a minute.
I had never heard Lewis perform before I asked him to come.
That's crazy.
I know. It is crazy.
Yeah. So
all of it's crazy. I think we established that all of this is crazy.
Like I said,
because here you are 4 years in. We don't even have a full, complete vision.
Right.
We done jump from one location to another location.
Right.
We're still learning our flow. We're still learning each other. And then here we bring in a whole nother energy. And I will say, for the time that we did have at Patois, it was magic. It was gold. And if at the time I was orienting myself to be in a very business-like mindset, I would have said, this is going to be what our prime looks like. Yes. Now that we've gotten to this space, now I feel established. Instead of, at the time, I was very much surrounded by people who were those idea people, always coming in, got ideas, no action, expecting you to follow their steps, even though they had never followed their own steps. Right. Had a lot of folks pushing back on me changing the price because they weren't even thinking about the level of work that went into the back end production, so that we could finally start seeing something as a return on our investment, because they had no idea all the work we were doing behind the scenes.
Right.
All the equipment that you were investing in. Things that you needed to have for yourself, business cards, all that. And me, of course, on my end, flyers, websites, things that I was building up to, but couldn't quite conceptualize, because all of that comes with having, more of a business mind. And I still was trying to learn my community and also learning more about myself as an artist. So that space being so large, bringing Lewis in was like the perfect solution to my problem. And what that allowed me to do was to still be able to preserve the guest experience, because it allowed me to work the room and be more in, and it kept this intimacy, because I think that we were nervous that leaving Legacy, because Legacy wasn't tiny, but it definitely allowed us to command that space because there wasn't so much going on. And so to have, this new location where you got the second level and you got the, bathrooms over here and pool tables, and it's the mobile hookah service and people can eat, and it's a, full service bar, and it's just like all these things. I'm just trying to keep my head up.
Right. I understand.
But it was an elevation. It was definitely a major move. It caused a lot of attention to be directed towards us. And there was so many people that wanted to partner up. And so it allowed even some of our ideas to grow bigger with comedy, with doing improv, with, being able to get out in front of more people and people wanting to be more a part of it as well. But then, you very quickly learn when you get into business that everybody don't do great business. And
that's why I have this shirt on, people. For those who can't see it, That's why I made the shirt, just so you know. I make shirts now.
Right.
I make shirts now for those Smooth Creations, y'all. Smooth with 3 O's, just so you know. But I made the shirt for a reason because as you just said, because that was one of the issues we had first with Cabana, but then with Patois, because we were about to go to the venue and we found out that it was boarded 2 hours before our show was going to start.
Are we talking about which one? Which one are we talking about?
No, that was Patois.
Well, okay, right, because we left the Cabana because we wanted to keep the event free.
Right.
And he wanted us to pay, but he didn't want to invest in it at all. He didn't want to invest in flyers. He didn't want to have somebody work the door. He didn't want to do that.
Okay.
And so we was even interested in like maybe a 2-drink minimum or something like that. But of course, this is a family-friendly environment. Right. So there is a certain mindset that comes with doing events late night. And so there was a little bit of a pushback, and we tried to negotiate to the best of our ability. But at the end of the day, we still were very much building this thing. We didn't know where it was going to go. Mm-hmm. And to be 100% honest, when they asked us to have a night, they weren't offering to pay us to produce it.
Right.
You know, and with me being very new to the scene and you working to establish yourself, we just want to figure out how we collaborate and come together.
Exactly.
We're worried about the money on later on, but we can't even have a conversation about money. So, you know,
right. You know, we're trying to establish a solid foundation.
Literally.
So we can continue to build. But yeah, so going back to Patois, that's when I think either you called me or something happened in which
I showed up on I was doing another business during the time which we were at Patois. I was also a fruit lady.
Right.
I feel like I started that company, and that was a really, really great way to offset some of the costs of the investment early on with building up WordUp, because it generated money. But when that's never was really the focus, when we did the free before 6, free before 7, $5 to $5, you know what I'm saying? Like it really, at the end of the night, we could easily have just seen like $300, $400.
Right.
And I'm just like, wow, like we just did 6 hours worth of work, you know, just to split that, you know, between us. I'm like, we really deserve more than that.
Exactly.
So I'd hoped that moving to Patois was going to allow us to see more revenue, but I kept getting pushback with raising the price point, even though we're in a nicer place, a bigger place, you know,
bringing people in, everything.
Listen, and that costs money, you know, and without, you know, trying to rehash, you know, years and years of us, you know, collaborating, and not even, again, being super duper business minded about everything. You know, people just, oh, well, you know, just let us in this time, or these my people, or, you know, those little $10, $20 admissions, that stuff add up after a while. You got half of the room people who got in free, and the only people that's making money are people at the bar.
Right.
The mobile hookah service was making more money than we was making, and it was our event. So I just kind of had to sit with that for a little bit. But again, it was never a money grab for me. It was an opportunity for me to grow, to learn who was in my community, to be able to build something of substance. And too often when people do have great ideas with events like this, they more focus on the money than the talent. And so you end up with this big, well-promoted show, but it's trash.
Right.
And you just paid $25 to look at somebody barely, you know, like, but here we are, fully committed, passionate, talented, attracting what we are.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it just was not, I was like, where is that sweet spot? You know, where do we figure out how to earn what we're worth and still be able to put on a quality production? But before we could really even wrap our mind around what that could look like, I was there. I had did an event selling fruit at the Patois, and that Monday there was a sign on the door that it was closed. No one had called me, texted me, nothing. So whatever happened over that weekend, it was a wrap. So I found out it was the day before.
Okay.
That Tuesday, yeah, because we at least needed. I needed that day's grace to figure out what we was gonna do that next day. And although like I've been, you know, trying to be very at storyboarding, you know, to do a documentary, because we do deserve to tell our story.
Yes, we do.
Just to make sure that my timeline is in sync. I feel like as soon as I think we did one event at Herb Arts. I think that's when Emcee stepped in. And we did one event at Herb Arts, but I was very sensitive to the talent that we built up, or to the reputation that we built up, and knew they also had a reputation with lyrical therapy. And I did not want to confuse the people who were coming to lyrical therapy with what we were doing.
Right.
And I also knew that we would be losing out on two things that our audience really valued, which was to be able to eat and to be able to drink. And so I felt like we would just be better suited in a location. I think that we did one night at Herb Arts, and that following one we did at the Spot. I think the Spot was our first opportunity to see if we had a crowd out in the county, and we really risked it all. We were on the St. Charles Rock Road.
Right. We did it. But you know what? Just seeing this photo, though, I remember the photo shoot we had. This was at Marina Spot.
Yeah.
Shouts out to our girl.
Right
she was on our show, on this show, about a month ago. Great conversation. But yeah, we had a fun time with this photo shoot. But yes, it was the flyer. Then of course, Lewis Confliction was on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yes.
Shout out to the Spot for giving us the opportunity. Yeah.
And Husband, they really held us down that whole year. They really made sure that we were taken care of. You know, they wanted to add some culture into their space, because the Spot is what it says, a sports bar. And so those were the people that would gravitate to that place. But we saw that just as much as there's talent in the city, there's also talent in the county, and we were bringing all new faces out.
Right.
It's some poets you wouldn't even know today if we didn't move out to the Spot. I stand on that confidently. Fluid being one of them.
Yep.
And
that was before she started out, I believe, if I recall correctly, just as a straight spoken word, but then she started developing into like a more of an MC.
And she started doing everything.
Yeah.
Okay? She was like,
and that was
I
the
can
beauty.
do this, I'm gonna at least try it. And if it's not really me, I'm not gonna do it. But if it is on my spirit, I'm gonna pursue it.
Yes.
And I love that she allowed that experience, and not just allow her to grow herself as a writer, but also her network, because open mic spaces do bring out very introverted people. And one thing that I have always loved about WordUp as a event space is that it does genuinely draw folks that want to love and support one another. Even if it's not people who are like super loyal to the platform, that don't go to every other open mic, like, what I can say is that when a person is there and they hear an artist that connects with them, they will go out of their way to support them. And and I could not ask for any more than that. I think that was really, again, at that foundation, what we created the space for.
And some of the best feelings that I had, and I know you probably shared with me as well, is that it was so great to see artists come back and say thank you to WordUp for allowing me to grow and elevate.
I mean, it's not like it is no other feeling in the world than someone acknowledging the impact that you had, big or small, on them making a choice that helped them along their path and their purpose.
Most definitely.
We could never have anticipated how many hearts we were going to touch, how many people we were going to affect, what artists we were going to be able to elevate in some small way to get them closer and closer to their bigger goal. And I think for me, it's the multi-genre effect. It's being able to impact musicians, poets, singers, rappers, like visual artists. Like, it's so many people who I won't necessarily got their start at WordUp, but because they came and they stayed consistent, they found their people, and they were able to take the opportunity and multiply it.
Right.
And I could never take credit for anybody's work, but I feel like when they have made that moment or that time to let me know how I helped them along their journey, it is always like confirmation for me that like starting this put me on the track to be even where I am today.
So let me tell you this, and I'm glad you're saying everything, because that's how I feel in regards to my brand that I have with the Platform Sports Talk Show, which has been 7 years running. 7 years.
What?
I have a whole family. I have an all women's, all ladies panel.
Okay.
I have an all males panel. We're about 10 people deep in the Platform Sports Talk Show network.
Come on.
And we're a family. And I always say this, that I feel like my purpose in life is to be able to provide others that platform. So I call it the Platform Sports Talk Show, to provide that platform for others to be able to have their stories told, have their viewpoints across that they may not have been able to get in other areas. It's like WordUp, where certain artists may not have been comfortable to be on that stage if they were going to another big time venue, because they might get judged because you're in the same line with Lightning and whatever.
It being a big time venue, it had everything to do with the type of energy and
Exactly.
vibe that was set, and
Exactly.
Agreed.
So
wholeheartedly.
I got to say this, and shouts out to Lowe's for giving us opportunity as well.
I was gonna say, right, because right after we did a year at the spot was beautiful. We saw Fluid and Lethal, 7,
right,
9.
Yep.
And I don't know if you remember 9, but vocals insane. Who else? We also saw some new comedians come in, but what I would like to also pay homage to is like WordUp. It was like it was like its own fertilizer. It's like every place that we went got better after we were there. And so when we left the spot, so many people started utilizing that spot. That spot became so much more accessible for artists, because then they had confidence and trust was built there.
Right.
Because we were there consistently. And I love that for them. And I was grateful to have been able to, stimulate their business in such an impactful way, for them to keep on going and hosting events even after we were no longer there. So we left from the spot and moved to Lowe's. Lowe's is now Capri.
Right.
If y'all like to get out in the county,
be outside.
Capri is over there by the Hoods hardware store on Natural Bridge. And Lowe's was made out to be like this swanky, it had like this swanky LA 70s LA vibe,
right.
Glass mirrors everywhere, crystal chandeliers. I mean, it was nice, and I really liked what the brother had put into that space. And I enjoyed being there. I think that the ultimate, thing that happened with Lowe's is that, it was never about me. I just was growing again, my artistry as we carried on. And even though we were no longer in that big, huge space on Washington, and the spot was literally a sports bar, a cute little ducked off sports bar, it didn't feel like at that time, me and Lewis had such a great chemistry on stage that I felt like I wouldn't want to keep hosting the show without him. So we basically just like we brought Lewis in on an as needed basis initially, but it almost was like, why not keep him a part of the show?
Right.
Now, that's another slice of the pie to divvy up, what we were making, but I guess at the end of the day, we mutually agreed that it was worth it.
And right, because I totally felt, like I said before, when you first said his name coming on, I'm like, oh well, he already has a reputation. People, you say his name, they gonna come out. That was just gonna be my mindset, like, oh, he has to bring out just on name alone,
for sure. But honestly, I don't think that was the case. No. Not at all. I think that people, although they know full and well that we had started without Lewis, he had become such a necessary vibe that added to our vibe that people could swear to me that he was there from day one.
Right.
And I'm like, we had WordUp for 3 years before Lewis was a part of it.
Right.
So that just let us know just how talented he was. But then, of course, to be in this smaller space and then to expand out to a slightly larger space, being at Lowe's, it did come with, it came with that. I feel like that move came with the most drama. Out of all the spaces that we stayed, I say between that one and smoke session. But I feel like that spot came with a little drama because when people do business and they have a secret desire to get into production and get into entertainment, they very greatly want to see things go their way. And if from a business standpoint, I needed mentorship. I needed to be around people that were making moves and doing great things. And, here this guy is with a really great establishment and a beautiful vibe that we're able to set in this space. We even brought in X Blue Rain and started doing a Blue Light special. We were developing out more ideas and doing, having more features. And so he wanted to see something along that line, but he felt like I didn't need a co-host, that I'm the energy. And at that point, I was like, well, I'm locked in. Like this is my crew. This is my team. Like I'm not gonna break up my team just because you think that it would be a better show.
Yeah.
Because to my audience, it's not a better show. This is your personal preference. You don't put on events. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm looking at him like you don't put on events. You don't put on events like this.
Right.
So how can you tell me what impact all three of us together is making? You know, have you talked to everybody that's in this room? You know,
right.
Lewis definitely had his own name, reputation, was bringing also bigger names in because he had already had an established following well before he joined up with us. But because Lewis was a nationally touring poet, a lot of his friends are on bigger multinational stages, you know. So what Lewis did bring to the table was that if they came in town, they were looking for him. And if he had a place that they could go, he was bringing them out.
Yeah.
And that was love every single time.
Let's talk about it real quick. This is what Smoooth Conversations all about, keeping 100. What went wrong, do you feel, at Spoke Session? I know one of the things about WordUp being at Spoke Session was location.
No, because here's the thing. When we moved to the spot, they followed us. They followed us to the spot and new people came.
They did.
When we moved to Lowe's, they followed us. It was some people that was still, you know, our regular dedicated follower, but we saw new people as well.
Right.
Once a brother, you know, was like, well, you know, I feel like it'll be better if you didn't have Lewis, and we kind of went back and forth about that. I immediately, instead of making it about that, I was like, well, that just sounds like it's time for us to go. We had the conversation we need to have, and then we was ready to get up out of there. But it was literally right when we needed to move. Tez called me up, and he was like, InnerGy, and I believe this. And I'm like, what's up? He was like, we got us a spot now. I need you to come check it out. I said, well, we just might be looking for a space. Let me come see what you got going on. So as soon as I see the space, I was like, oh my God, this is great. I mean, it's chic, it was beautiful, it was pristine, it was clean. And because he had built that reputation with us at Patois, he was like, you know, now, you know, we got our own spot and, you know, you can have it here. And so we worked out our arrangement, and literally I felt like that next week, because that was the one thing about us. We tried our best not to miss a beat.
Right.
We tried our best not to miss a week. Like we wanted to stay on track because how hard it would be to reach out to everybody. And we even had a text blast system where we like, look, text WordUp because we was trying to keep up. We really were. And that's one thing I also would say, being a tech girly was a great asset for me, was that when the idea came to me to give flyers, when the idea came to me to build a website, when the idea came to me to invest in these other systems, these digital systems to help keep upgrading the showcase, I didn't hesitate to do those things. And they definitely helped us out in a major way by keeping up with a lot of our audience, because people wouldn't have known, you know, that we were moving to these other locations unless they got that information. So Smoke Session was beautiful for a while.
It was.
But it's being a weekly Tuesday night and realizing that we have no control over what happens in the space when we're not there. And so, you know, you have these beautiful chic sheer curtains and these really nice gray couches, and we would come in and we'd have to couches would be burnt up. I mean, come on, it would be guts of weed, you know, leftover weed on the floor and tables, people popping champagne, stuff still all on the floor, you know. And I just kind of felt like, you know, after being there maybe about 6 or 7 months, that the quality was starting to decline. And I was worried about whether that would be befitting for our audience, because we were used to a certain standard of cleanliness and organization at that point. And I was still working the Fruit Lady, though, so that was a major thing for me. And of course, like I keep tabs on other businesses by being able to pop up and show love. And so I will say that, you know, something I've struggled with as a woman in business and being taken seriously, and also, you know, doing all of my own negotiations. I could have easily have hid behind you, Fred. I could have easily just told you, you know, hey, I need you to be my mouthpiece for this. I need you to negotiate this for me. I need you to stand firm. Don't waver, you know, let them know we don't mean business. And they could have believed that you was the organizer the whole entire time. We could have done that. But I felt like I was meant to learn something, you know, being in this position. I was meant to go through some of these experiences so I could see for myself how heavy patriarchy and misogyny and ageism and just, it was so many things that was working against me during this time. And people would have rather believed that you were over it or Lewis was over it before believing that it was something that I had created. And so oftentimes going into those rooms and talking to these men, these business owners, about what I needed and how we were going to collaborate, there would be, the sidebars, the side, and I would have to operate. I would have to operate in these spaces where I would have to be around husbands and wives and, things of that nature, where I would have to be focused on my job. My job is here to create a safe space for other people, but not even knowing that it might not have been a safe space for me. But I didn't hold it against them. I definitely didn't allow that to, when I came into conflict with artists and people that would come, I didn't allow that to build up resentment for me, because people didn't know what I sacrificed to create this event night. They had no idea whether I was taking money out of my household to build this thing up, to pay people. They never even considered it, not for a minute. But I felt like at the time I was justifying it because it did give me purpose. It grew my community, it grew my support network. It allowed me to discover more about myself, where my hard lines were. And I feel like, for the most part, even though they weren't ideal situations, they were a very real reality of what the world works like, especially being in entertainment.
So with that being said, because I'm glad you brought it, because I was going to ask you about your experience being a woman in the field that you're in, but you already are answering that question right now. But what advice would you give women who are on that same path of what you're doing, trying to start this up, trying to MC this, or wanting to bring people on to your event? What would be your advice to those women who are about to get into that field and have to deal with a lot of male egos and etc.?
Never compromise. Stand on business. The minute you allow someone to deter you from your vision, you forfeit. And I don't think that I got into this personally. I don't think I got into this to have someone tell me what to do. Mm-hmm. I think that I really wanted to figure out what I was made out of. And so it's easy to allow someone else to pull the strings, because then if anything goes wrong, they have to take accountability. Mm-hmm. And who doesn't want to share, the accountability for when things go wrong? Because that's one thing that, as someone who considers herself to be a boss, a CEO, a leader, what have you, that's what you take on, and it's brutal. It is gut-wrenching to have something not work out the way that you want it to. It is also gut-wrenching to think that something is something and it's the whole time it's not. So, it's definitely ways to go about things. And I think that there are some people that let you know immediately off the bat what they're coming with. And there are some people who will wait a very long time before they present you with a problem. And I feel like, in particular with Smoooth Sessions, it was a waiting game, where towards the end, because being a young, driven Black woman with talent and good looks, it sounds strange to me. We're a little bit of an anomaly. Mm-hmm. And to have made it that far without compromising my morals or my integrity, I really just felt like I couldn't regress. And I also felt like what was being presented to me wasn't my next big break either. I felt like there were conversations that were being had about me when I wasn't there on Tuesdays. And when I go in to any establishment, I make my arrangement. I'm very transparent about what my needs are. And if it's not something that I can be accommodated with, then I'm going to consider something else. I'm not going to force. I'm going to flow. And so it was easy to flow right in the Smoooth Session after Lowe's, because I was being presented with an ultimatum. Either I get rid of Lewis, which is really the conversation, or I move. And I moved. Mm-hmm. And I would never take a moment out and throw that in Lewis. Oh, you're the reason why we had, no, because it wasn't even that great of an arrangement for me to be like, let me shine on our relationship because you put me in a tight spot. No, we're in this together. We're going to work together. We're going to move out of this situation together. Right. So, but also knowing the type of temperament, that Lewis has, and of course you as well. I'm just like, look, if I start telling y'all every time I come in, we ain't going to be able to go nowhere.
Right.
I don't want that for us.
And I won't say any names, but I recall a story that you told me that you wanted to have a certain person to be at WordUp who could have been an incredible feature, and you told me how he wanted to have a certain act go on in order for him to say, "Yeah, I'm there." And I always thought about that.
Who was that?
I ain't gonna say it.
No, you can say it. It's a safe space, ain't it?
It is.
I can't even look. It's been so many. I can't even remember what you're talking about.
It is right, and that's my point. Is that
listen?
And I had this conversation with Drew Bethany. He's the drummer, one of the most known drummers, about that, and how and he said, "Yeah, I admit that he has seen a lot of I'm trying to think what the name that he called them, but pretty much creeps in the industry."
Yeah, and they run it, and it becomes the culture. Unfortunately, it's almost like it's an expectation, and when you go in not expecting that, then you're naive, and you put too much trust in people and all these things. And I'm like, look, I trust me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna come into the arrangement trusting me, trusting I'm gonna make the best decision for me possible. I felt like there were some side conversations, like I said, happening in this Smoooth session in particular, where people were asking like, what's going on? We're both good looking people. We're both successful. Here he has this venue. He's appearing to be, a very well established guy. There's no way that I wasn't, involved with him in some capacity. And so even though it was never over friendliness, we're too touchy feely, none of that with any of the space that I've ever been in, but behind the scenes there was always that speculation. And again, that plays into the misogyny and the sexism that I experienced being a female business owner and a leader, because that will be what they would default to. It's like, oh, well, me and you, me and Lewis, you know, anyone that's involved as a man, it was always an assumption or an insinuation. And so I think that there was a point in time where it was offered, the opportunity to become entangled was offered, and I declined it. And once I declined it, then it went from it being, this very friendly, oh, we're cool, we're homies, I love what you're doing for the community, I love what you're doing for St. Louis, and I want to support that too. Money, it became, oh, well, now I want to see this much money a night. And I was like, just thinking to myself, well, would there still have been an arrangement had I decided to hop down, even, I don't share where I eat, very handsome young man, talented, smart, driven, but knowing how people move and what their situations are, like, you got to be a little bit more considerate. And I just feel like it would have been a dumb move on both of our parts.
To this day, what do you think has been the biggest misconception about you?
I couldn't even tell you, because I don't be knowing what people say. I really would like to thank my ancestors for divinely guiding me and protecting me from the foul minds and thoughts of those who would fix their mouths to say things about me that are untrue, that would want to coerce people into believing things about me that are untrue without even ever addressing me directly. I think that, of course, all press is good press. So most of the time, anytime I had ever came into conflict with people, I just have always considered myself to be such a solid person that it's hard for if someone will want to already believe that about me before they ever hear anything first.
Yeah.
To feed into some of the stuff that would come my way, because it never came from the horse's mouth. I just can't even feed like that. It's the number one thing about energy. If I learn one thing about being energy, and that's energy, pun intended, is that you have to be very careful about where you allow your energy to go. And for me, it has been a daily lesson to keep my energy at a high vibrational frequency, because it is very easy to get stressed and to have doubt and to then listen to what other people say and to allow that to be who I am, to internalize that. And speculation, oh my gosh, that's such a huge waste of energy. I can think all day of what people could say, but I would much rather narrate what people are going to say, because I can control this space. I can control the people that I'm around. I can control what I hear. I can control what I feed into. I can control what I repeat about me. And I don't think that there's ever been anything in the time that I've been doing this that came across me that made me feel like this is it. Like, I'm so sick of people and they always haters and it's haters everywhere. I'm like, no, that's fuel. That is inspiration.
Right.
Anytime I ever felt like I had a hater, it had less to do with something I did and more to do with how they went about the issue, because it removed them out of a space where they were growing community. Not because I wanted them to no longer be around, because everything is personal. Everything we do is personal. So how you treat people, especially in the city of small St. Louis, is very important.
Yeah.
And so I'm a Scorpio. We Scorpios. We can walk away from people very easy.
Yes.
Because we know if we were ever taken to the level by which people want to get us to, that it would be no. So it's like we're very careful with how we wield our Scorpio powers. And I'm like, man, like I know that people think that I'm love and light and positivity and all of this, but I guess duality is balance.
Yes.
And I do live in St. Louis. I am born and raised in St. Louis.
Speaking of that,
so just as positive as I can be, just as imagine on the spectrum of petty.
So a question that I've been asking every guest that I've had on the show so far: collaboration versus competition. What does that mean to you?
Oh, there is no competition. Oftentimes people will show you how they feel about you, and I think that when you have had the experiences that we've had over the years, that for a lot of people coming in, that could be intimidating. You mentioned before, when you step on stage with a lightning, with a 16 bars, with a Sir Irvin Williams, with a Shea Brown, these poets that have been literally have performed on thousands of stages before you ever grabbed a mic. It can really have you feeling like, is this where I'm supposed to be? Is this who I'm supposed to be talking to? Or am I of this caliber? And so the competition comes when people feel like they have to measure up to something. Mm-hmm. The bar has already been raised, but where is the bar that you set for yourself and your rules of engagement? So when other shows popped up after we became more established,
right,
I think people naturally thought that it was a competition thing. And I just kind of thought to myself, well, have you considered the quality of these productions? We have these years and years of experience and what we like to see and what we don't like to see. But a newer established open mic is going to come across the same issues that we came across, and let's see how they handle it. Mm-hmm. So I was a huge supporter of people jumping into the scene, because it also let people see how much work it really took to have a quality open mic.
Right.
And people was getting their asses handed to them. Oh my goodness. I mean, I would go to the shows and see them sweating. Okay.
Yeah.
And in the midst of that, I also learned to appreciate just how unique, talented, and fearless being on the same stage as Lewis made me, because we were so original with a lot of what we brought to the open mic scene, and that originality we saw copied. I'm talking about word for word, verbatim, down to the rules. How people opened up the show, how people got people to clap their hands. I mean, I seen it firsthand, and it made me smile. It made my heart warm. I felt appreciated, because although I would never anticipate someone saying, "Oh, I copied your whole swag of your show."
Right.
That's still not us. It's not us. You know what I'm saying? Like you could take anything that you would like and put your spin on it. I mean, we're literally doing that every day. You took a phrase, put it on a t-shirt, and you're wearing it and you're repping it, and you get to put your own vibe to it and your own meaning to it and your own experience to it. And I'm gonna be like, next time I make reference to make black business better, I'm gonna be like, shoot, the homie had on a t-shirt. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's get it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think that too often would people rather, instead of saying, hey, let's work together to build something bigger and better, it is that proving ground and that vetting system of them learning how to do it on their own that lets them know if that's something that they really want to do. Because I would much rather you try to do it on your own and then go through some experiences to say, I can do this, versus you coming with the ideas, feeling like you can do something, getting involved, and then realizing how much it really takes to put it together.
Right.
because, like I said, people had to look at me in a new light, in a new way, after creating their own space, to see what it really took to put it together and to make it work and to make it happen, to make it smooth. That was another piece to the puzzle. It's like being able to pivot every single time we came into a situation. It broke a lot of people. I saw people start up and just as quickly fall off.
Nope, can't do it.
Because pivoting takes a massive amount of power.
Right.
And confidence.
And will.
I didn't always have it. I didn't, but having you all around me, pouring into me, affirming for me, and willing to jump in where I could not was the best thing I could have ever asked for. Yeah. Because it kept me grounded and it kept me focused on the bigger picture. And although, again, we still didn't have a definite vision of what that bigger picture was, we knew that we were doing something meaningful. And being anchored in that allowed me to not let the problems that came along the way become an issue. Because it very easily could have overwhelmed me. As soon as we had to leave smoke session, I asked myself, what we were going to do, because that was when we chose to go back to Legacy.
Right.
And it was a hard decision to make because of the conversation I had with Lewis when he first jumped on board, because that whole situation had not had any closure. And while, St. Louis is a small city and people be in everybody's business and words get out and stuff gets around, I felt like if there was in any way an opportunity for them to repair their relationship, that, if I could be a catalyst there for some healing, that I wanted that experience to occur, even if it didn't mean that moving to Legacy was going to allow us to keep Lewis.
So let's pivot back. You just brought up to Legacy. One of the highlights from Legacy, it was two of them, I would say. One was your birthday.
Which year?
I want to say, I can't recall which year it was.
What do we do?
But all I know is that I hosted majority of the show. It could be one of you to feel special. And when you came up on stage and you had your speech, you just immediately broke down. And like, that was an amazing feeling that I'm glad that you was able to have, was that everyone, like, you felt that night that you felt the love that you deserved, and you was given the appreciation that you deserve for all that you've done. And it was like the emotion just came from you out of nowhere, or like it just sunk into you, and you just on stage, you just talking, it just hit you. And I'm like, that's what it's all about, because everyone was giving back to you as you has always given back to everyone else. So I thought that show was amazing. And then selfishly, I have to say, the Smooth Takeover was one hell of a great night. And this night is so special. Shout out to Bigo, to my old bandmates.
Yes, wait, wow, wait.
Yeah, because I reached out to him private.
Oh my God.
I reached out to him like, hey man,
you are DJ WordUp.
Yeah, I'm you are one of my favorite DJs ever. It's my birthday. I want to have you on.
One of my favorite DJs ever. If anything, I credit Biko with inspiring me to pick up the turntables.
Okay.
He actually gifted me with some classic ones with Newmark.
Yeah.
I'm talking about needles. Like I'm collecting wax at this point. Like I need more records. I'm like, I need to get vinyl.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what I use right now.
Right.
But he literally gave me my first turntable.
But yeah, this was an amazing event. I had some great spoken word artists.
You had a whole lineup.
I had people come to me like, dude, you need to have this like all the time. And I was humble, and it was just a great feeling to have so many talented people all in that building for that night. And this moment here, I think was like my very first time really like getting on stage and like doing my own thing. And after that day, that kind of gave me the confidence to be like, oh, well, as I DJ, I'm going to be more upfront as well about being an MC. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So it was moments like this that kind of propelled me as more than just, you know what I'm saying?
That banner.
Right.
And, I was going to say, people often didn't associate me with a lot of the creative elements of WordUp. But, since its inception, I did all the graphic design work.
Right.
all the marketing. I made all the banners over the years leading up to us getting the vinyl backdrop. And so, you know, it also allowed me to be able to express myself even more creatively outside of, you know, poetry performances. And I would even open singing. Like I was a lot more extroverted. I feel like those first few years, but I feel like I had to do more. And when we brought in Lewis came with the singing and the rapping, and you know, I was like, okay, I can breathe a little bit.
Right. You ain't gotta do everything.
That part, but
Yeah.
I do truly feel like or wish that during those first years that we brought Lewis on, that we were a little bit more focused on being like band like versus, you know, it being more just like our Tuesday night vibe energy. Because that definitely would have allowed us to be more established as a trio or like as a unit than just, you know, what we were building with WordUp.
I mean, to me, I would say, and Lewis, I love you, man. Once again, very talented brother. But one of the biggest things I feel like we couldn't get to that level was because of the inconsistency.
I mean, we all definitely had our inconsistencies for sure. So I can't even single Lewis out on that one. You know, I was juggling motherhood. I didn't have a car for several years at the beginning.
Right.
You know, it was definitely a lot of pitfalls happening for me behind the scenes, but I think I did my best not to let it impact the quality of the event. And I do feel like at one point, when we were growing as a trio, some of the things that we were dealing with outside of the space started to impact the space. And for me, it was like, yo, this is bigger than us, you know. So if I am tasked with doing anything, it's to keep the quality of this where it's at or higher. We cannot regress. And so we did go through a little rough patch with Lewis during a point in time because I felt like, you know, I can't control anything that you do outside of a Tuesday. But when you show up on Tuesday, you got to come with it, you know. But that also is knowing that we were building a family, and when you have a family, you know, that comes with committing to them, you know, more than just professionally, you know, and it becomes more than just business. And so I was worried about that because, you know, I never want someone to feel like I would be putting my business before, you know, brotherhood and sisterhood. But I did feel like everyone who was involved knew how important this was.
Yeah.
And so to take away from that in any capacity was selfish, and they deserve to be treated accordingly. And so when we went through, I want to say this had to be right before the pandemic in particular. We were going through some things, some issues with just some inconsistencies. I was like, you know, if it's too much, like, it's okay. We can admit that, you know, because people need a break. Everybody is not like me, or, you know, it's some folks out there that definitely, you know, have the skill set to regenerate and have the processes where they are able to restore themselves so that they can come at things fresh and energized every single week. And I couldn't expect me from anybody else, you know. So when you decide you needed a break, I had to respect that, you know. But sometimes you get those people who are so used to showing up for people more than they show up for themselves that you have to tell them to go sit down. You have to tell them to take care of themselves. And this is a lot. This can be a lot for people, especially with the environment. You know, we're around alcohol, we're around people who smoke, we have access to so many things. And so as artists, it's something that's also very important for us to be able to be in spaces where we can have self-control and we can have discipline. And I feel like, you know, if you don't give yourself a break sometimes from exposing yourself to certain energies, you know, it could end up being your downfall. And I never wanted that to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I always wanted to have that grace and to give that grace to anybody that's been involved with my platform. And so while we were definitely sad to see you go, Fred, because I didn't even see that coming. But I understood.
You had a little moment.
I understood. I did. I was like, what?
Yeah. We'll talk about that later on. But I want to continue on with collaboration because one of the biggest collabs that we experienced, and I want you to just give me, you see this photo.
Oh, Lord. You got all the good pics, Fred. Let's go.
Just go ahead and give me your thoughts on this photo right here.
Oh yeah, the unlimited edition. My bleeding heart.
The Rogue brand unit.
Yeah. So one thing that was really important to me while we were growing ourselves and establishing ourselves was recognizing other people that were growing in parallel with us. And so as the poetry scene was popping off and more was coming along, a young lady named Keisha was became one of our vendors. So she had a company where she was doing the vinyl t-shirts with the expressions the same. So she would pop up as a vendor and come hang with us, but she also had some very powerful poetry. So when we were at Lowe's, we actually started hosting the unlimited edition.
Right.
And so it was an unlimited edition, and it was the blue light special. So it would rain. So I can't say necessarily I'm like all female empowerment, but I felt like at that point in time, these were the go-getters. These were the, folks that were really staying consistent with themselves.
Right.
And as when I had published this book, and I felt like we hadn't highlighted erotic poetry and let things get sexy and sensual enough, So we kind of, I won't say we kept things like political and straight laced or like hard subjects, but I do feel like, there was a space for that people wanted, and we met that demand. So when we grew into this partnership, very much just believing in, the possibility of us coming together to make things great. And it was love. It was definitely a lot of love. You feel the love coming out this picture. Like we all vibing. And it was a great time. This is a great era for us. I do feel like, in hindsight, business wise, I wish, just arranging these ideas,
all the talent,
structuring these ideas, and even capturing some of this footage, because that was another piece. Like we were so in the moment that, and we saw so much, talent. Oh my goodness! Like if we had something like a Def Jam, if we started out recording everything, man, we would be viral right now.
Man, so
some of the things we've seen in these years, we'd be viral right now.
So I brought up this photo or similar photo to Renaissance on the show I had with her about a month ago. I want you to hear what she says and then give me your feedback.
I look at this picture and I see how much power there is. All the potential that we had, we couldn't have guessed that we would be where we all are individually today. But when I think of like the collaborative efforts that I would say were probably missed.
Yeah.
I agree. This was kind of like we go farther together, but together isn't where we're going right now.
And I ain't gonna lie, because I thought as soon as he put this unit together, I really had high expectations in regards to us just doing a lot. I mean, like, kind of like what Morgan Casey is to St. Louis now.
Yeah.
Like I thought at that time that was going to be us just bringing in events. You know what I'm saying? While you can come in and do your photography and,
we did have some moments though where we did do some of those things, like role models. We collaborated on role models and did our thing on those shows and some other ones. But I mean, can't cry with spilled milk.
Right. Your thoughts?
I love Rena. Shout out to my Renaissance, one of the most incredibly talented photographers in the city. She's a phenomenal storyteller. And is a very, very good friend. So what I saw in that picture, looking at every single person that's in there, you had your makeup artist, you had your barber, you had the graphic design aspect with Tono. He also did photography and videography, editing. Then you had I would say, between Unlimited and I, that would have been great creative direction and even down to I dare say it, a stylist as well. And so you coming in with the DJ capabilities and the sound engineering, and then here I am as a host. It just to me would have been a great opportunity to have a group, that is locked in, that is focused, that is dynamic, that's very, dedicated to what they are all doing individually, and also realize at the same moment, like, we can make this ours, and not, I can't necessarily say on the same level as Morgan Casey, because when you look at Morgan Casey's story and who she's connected to, her path was laid for her to do the work that she does today and to reach the hearts that she reaches right now, with the ideas that she's had, the partnerships that she's had. And so her whole entire event series is very unique and specific to her and what her resources are. But looking at that picture, it does say, this is what our network looked like. These are the resources that we had. And if we could have stuck with it just a little bit longer and did more events collaboratively together, I want to say even this group together did one of Unlimited's poetry shows. So because like I said, the poetry scene was thriving, that was a huge moment for her to establish herself as someone who was a huge supporter of the poetry community by hosting the poetry slams. And, you know, I think that it was the beginning of something special. But unfortunately, you know, like, you know, most things, if you don't have that collective vision, that defined collective vision, when people's paths do converge, you know, folks are going to do what's best for them. And I think that, you know, collectively we had something beautiful, but it also was with respect to the fact that it wasn't as solid as it could have been because we didn't all have that collective vision for where we wanted to take it to. And everybody didn't have a voice as far as like what direction we were headed in either. And then I will say, you know, with me knowing, you know, most of the people in that picture, all the people in that picture intimately, you know, people's lives are changing. Myrina was pregnant in that picture, you know what I'm saying? So there's time that she needed to rest and recover. You know, we couldn't always depend on her to show up to do photography. Tono went through his own series of situations, you know, as a young Black man, struggling with mental health and the other things that he had going on that he expressed to us. And then Unlimited and Jay were together. They were a couple. And as she began to elevate more in her business, you know, she also felt like he needed to elevate as well. And they went through whatever they had to go through. And, you know, to this day, they're no longer together. So I don't know how long, you know, this team would have stayed a superpower, you know, knowing that very shortly after we took this series of photos that all our paths are going to converge. But I think we all still respectively have incredible things going on. And if the universe does see fit to ever bring, if not all of us back together, a few of us back together, that we're still going to continue to do really great things. But it does take a unit. And when you can identify people within your resources that are consistent with themselves and you have trust built up, that just makes being able to execute those big ideas that much easier. So I think this is like the beginning of us being able to identify who's around and not just saying, oh, these people coming out to enjoy the open mic. Oh no, we got photographers, videographers, graphic designers, we got makeup artists, we got hairstylists, we got fashion designers, we got B-boys, B-girls, we got journalists, we got, you know,
anything you need, we had it.
But we were seeing people more than just being a part of the community and coming out to catch a vibe, but like seeing them as being businesses too, in ways that we could strengthen what we were building as a platform by identifying who could be potential partners. You already paying to come here every week. What does that look like if we can if we can take that bond and build on it? And so, but this definitely, these arrangements and situations are definitely huge catalysts for me to be able to identify, you know, down the road who would be strong partners to keep the platform going, especially after you left.
Look at you. How special was it to be a part of this project?
Oh my goodness. Listen. So Myrina just, you know, she took the game and ran with it.
Yeah,
you know, she realized that she had something. And one thing I love about Myrina as a storyteller is that you really feel her heart behind it. It really allows you to see more of who she is as a woman, a mother, a provider, a caregiver, a sister. And her bringing me into this campaign when she first started it was very, very, very intimate to me because she saw me in a way that a lot of people didn't see me. I mentioned that when we first started the showcase that I was doing some community organizing, but a lot of people didn't know that before I started the open mic that I was the chairwoman of the New Black Panther Party St. Louis chapter. And I didn't want to leave with that because I didn't want to turn anyone away. And I also didn't want to quote unquote radicalize the platform by having it be politically focused. You know, I wanted people to be able to relax. Meanwhile, I did have some very big concerns, but I want to see where people are at, because one thing that really stuck out to me working with so many different people within this community, or in this city, can't call it a community, was that at the end of the day, the only people that were doing something were the creatives. So I stopped trying to talk to people who weren't actively engaged in change, in work, in action. No matter how quote unquote stagnant artists thought that they were. When artists got on stage and they was like, oh, what is some, I wrote this years ago. We still call it new because it might be old to you, but it's new to me. And so it allowed, you know, for us to have kind of like this fresh take on everything. And with me also not having a stage name, it was like, well, I could have stuck with that and been that and branded myself as that. But I wanted to be able to control my narrative. I wanted to be able to co-create my reality just like everybody else around me. And so when InnerGy came into the picture, I felt like InnerGy has so much to offer, not even just as a producer, event producer, but just as a perspective. And one thing that me and Marina shared in us learning each other over the years is just how everything that we've been through has prepared us for the work that we do today. So it took me to see what I had to see to have the value that I had for the platform that I created. And because that platform was one that she found success in and even was allowed to allow herself to launch off on, this is her way of bringing me in and in some small way paying me back. But I had no idea where this was going to go. Okay. No clue how big this is going to build itself up. So my first, right, go ahead, pull it up. So when we first linked up, I was celebrating 6 years with the open mic. And there was an article written on me in the St. Louis American that was on the entertainment page with Cicely Tyson. She had just transitioned into an ancestor. And I thought that was just such an honor to be right underneath this beautiful ruby red gown, this picture of me and a headshot of me in my turban. And I feel like the picture was from a photo shoot that I did with A.G. Shaw and Tracy Scott and Il Portrait, Donna Birch. And so it meant a lot to me to talk about what I have been experiencing with building this up and how important open mics were. Like I just had no idea, you know, that I was going to look up be 6 years in. And so Pierre McClary was the creative director and the stylist for the shoot.
She got her own shop down the street.
Yep. So Two Ball Chicks. Shout out to Boo Bae. That's my birthday twin.
Really?
Me, Vanessa, and Pierre.
Scorpio.
Birthday. Okay. That's right. Turned up. But yeah, so she styled me in this picture, and we were inside of Marina's studio down in the arcade downtown.
Right.
And I had all of these copies of the St. Louis American because as soon as it dropped, I went straight to Walgreens. I did a whole TikTok. It was my first TikTok I ever made, and it's me to the Sock'em Bop'em song, or it's like a beatbox or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, the song is so annoying, but it's just so funny. So I'm like,
yeah.
So I started picking up my copy, and I'm like in shock because I'm like, oh my god, like look at me, I'm in a newspaper for this thing, and I'm like, it's real because as an entrepreneur, people don't think of you as a business until you do something that makes them feel like you're established, and it's nothing like, you know, being on TV or winning an award or being, you know, in a newspaper that makes a person feel like, wow, you're like, you really are.
Doing something.
You're doing something. Yeah. And so I had so much family where I've been trying to get to come out and to see what I do and to support what I do that just would not. And it took something like this for them to really put some respect on my name and for them to see that I like, even if you don't recognize me in the work that I do, there are people that do, and that's where I want to be. And
you was at a freaking airport for months.
So this is the first campaign of the Her Imminent Rain project. I emulated Erica Huggins, who is still living. She's one of the foundational Black Panther Party members. So like I said, I really feel like Marina saw me when she selected me to portray this particular character because she understood how strong the story behind this educator, freedom fighter, activist, literary was to me, because it's honestly like exactly what I feel like I had been building myself to be. And so I really didn't have to go too far to reimagine this woman, you know, and I love that for me because it was so true to who I am in this image, you know, it was so true to that. And I love that she aligned me with it because it also allowed other people to see me. And so this project, it built up from that particular series. She did another year where she involved Tracy Stanton.
Mm-hmm.
And so T-Spirit reimagined another literary great. I'm talking about an award-winning, very accomplished, but you wouldn't even have known this woman's name had Myrina not brought her name up, because I definitely didn't know who she was. And so I was so grateful that someone who I consider to be so powerful within my own life could add her notoriety to this story. And it really sunk into me like the power of this project that Myrina's put together. So the third year rolls around, and this is when, this is right before the airport, right? She wants to do something with this Afrofuturistic sort of energy to it. And one thing that's big to me is, of course, I'm always thinking about the future, thinking about what's next. I had joined up with an organization in 2015 called the Black Speculative Arts Movement, and they're about everything futurity, especially when it comes to Black people in the future. And so this group, to this day, is still one of the, if not the foremost group when it comes to Afrofuturism, what that means, how we operate within it, how we define it, you know, and who the thought leaders are in that space. When she approached me about designing some jewelry for the exhibition, I was like, me? Me? And that's another thing, you know, about my creativity is like people see my creativity pour out of me through curating the space, but they oftentimes miss the other things that I, you know, have developed throughout my art form of expression, and jewelry design is one of those things. And so she gave me a mood board. She was like, I don't know what you're going to do, but I know you're going to do something amazing. I'm just going to let you go ahead, go with it. And I love creators like that because she could easily micromanage that project and made me hate her. But she was like, no, I'm going to let you breathe. Just, you got this deadline. This is material. You know, you do what you do. Just be you and bring it. And I did what I do. I waited till the last minute to put something together. I had literally a week, gave myself a week to really try to put something out. And what I made was absolutely perfect. Elizabeth Danielle was chosen to be the kandake for my design. I touched every woman that she had featured in the last exhibition for Herman and Rain. But the piece that I created for Elizabeth Danielle really set her garment off. It was exactly what Myrina needed to really give that particular imagery the tone that she had intended. And she had no idea how it was going to come. I didn't send her no pictures. I didn't consult with her after we had our initial conversation, and I talked to the other designer. Me and the other designer barely even talked about it. I just looked at what material she was using. I was like, okay, we're going to figure out something with this. But I have, in my process, a habit of overthinking like most creatives.
Yeah.
And with that, when you give a creative who overthinks a lot of time to do something, oh my God, it is purgatory. It is absolute hell, because I could think of 100,000 designs in the time frame between what I need to create and when it needs to be finished. And so I know I didn't have a lot of raw material I could destroy. So I was working with a limited amount of resources. And I also knew that there's a huge aspect to my process that has to do with my intuition and being in a flow state. And if I feel like I'm forcing myself to do something, it's not going to be what I want. But if I have too much time to overthink it, then I'm just going to keep adjusting it until, you know, and I can ruin it that way. Oh God. So I think that subconsciously I waited until the last minute to create the piece, just so when I was out of time, I was out of time. So what it was going to look like was what it was going to look like.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. That's right. And so when I showed up and they went crazy when I pulled it out the box, oh my God, I'm like, I would do this all the time. Like, put me on the next time. But it was so magical the way that Myrina was able to bring all these women together for this particular production, and how she stayed consistent with all the women that she had worked with in her previous productions, and how intentional she was about specifically working with women and making it a both women-led and completely through, women in every position to be able to handle everything, to show that we're capable of performing at a high level, just like anyone else. She was really breaking barriers there, and I don't think that she's given enough credit and enough flowers for having the audacity to attempt such a huge feat. And then on top of that, to be in the space of grant writing and figuring out how to get people to sponsor and figure out how she was going to take the time off to do something that she was very passionate about, but still feed her family, a growing family at that, because I know she was getting married around that time. So boom, when she announced to us after we did the exhibition to debut this project, and she did a full scale production with this one. We went out the Engar Arts Hotel. She had sponsorships with RAC and with Kranzberg, and she brought in T Parks to moderate, and they put together a whole dance routine, and it was a lot. I was like, look at my girl right here. This is crazy. And so when she announced that we were going to be able to put in an art installation, an exhibition at the St. Louis Lambert Airport, and that it was going to, we were anticipated to have over 15 million impressions on people coming in and out of the airport, I passed out a little bit. I came back, but I was like, so what you just say?
Right.
I'm like, what? Like my face, it reimagined as a Black Panther. For one, I got my pen on, I got my newspaper article, one that it was already like a huge moment for me. Right. Now it's amplified that much more. And all because, I valued staying consistent and building, relationships, and it just became more than just having a moment, an opportunity to have a moment, but in actually learning people and building with people and developing bonds and maintaining those bonds. And I always tell, whenever I talk to a youth, I mention to them how important it is, the people that are around them right now. I said, look, you can want to be whatever it is you want to be, but oftentimes we overlook where it is that we are right now because of who's around us. But it may not look the way you think it's supposed to look, but there are people around you right now that will help you achieve whatever it is you're trying to do. You don't have to wait to be an adult or wait to get to be older. And so I keeping that same energy, like not knowing exactly where I want the open mic to take me, but knowing how important it is for me to foster good relationships and to move accordingly and to really invest in these artists outside of what they can do for me when they come perform, because I never set it up with that energy, because that's never what it had been. If anything, I felt like I was going out every weekend pimping myself out so people can come see me on Tuesday. And instead of it being about me, I'm like, here, see my friends. Like, oh, my friends are talented. Watch them. Like, don't check them out. Hey. I know you came to kick it with me, but you really came to kick it with my friends, So but with that, in mind, it's just also like my arena shows me just again how important it is to invest in the people that are around you, because you never know where they're going to go and how they're going to bring you along on their journey. Because I did feel like in a way I brought a lot of people along for the ride, but through staying consistent and continuing to build with them, like they've offered me opportunities and connected me with people that have given me opportunities that I would not have gotten otherwise.
Do you feel to this moment that you have gotten your just due?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I do feel like, if anything, this city has birthed so many gems that it's taken all of this pressure and all this expectation, all this responsibility to value when you have a gem, coming out of the community. And then also just my own personal growth outside of the platform. If we're specifically talking about WordUp, I don't think I could ever get enough, hear enough, get enough. I don't think I ever could, because of how much really went into, producing the space. But now, that I'm older, and I look at, what has happened over these years and what type of legacy I'm leaving behind and what the impact that it has made, I can rest well. If I were to decide to do something different and pivot that I could rest well, that I made a solid impact, that, the St. Louis entertainment scene is forever changed because we collaborated, that there are artists that would have never gotten a start, or would have been connected to who they're connected to now if it wasn't for them gathering and coming and staying consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just have to be okay with that, job well done.
Job well done.
Because it really was man, so much magic made.
Yeah.
So much magic made.
Let's talk about this InnerGy, the spoken word artist, the Emcee. You see this photo here. I have a huge amount of respect for the spoken word community. And I'm about to be 43 in November. And like, even to this point,
wow, Fred.
Right. Even to this point, I'm like forgetting certain things. So with you, just talk about having the ability to, off the top of your dome, or bringing up an old piece when you're on stage and still able to do that without hesitation or flow. Just talk about a point of view of being a spoken word artist and being on that stage, and when you see the microphone or even without the mic, you just go. Talk about that.
I had, prior to hosting WordUp, I had been to a lot of community events and forums and realized just how much entertainment plays into the psyche of people. And so, yeah, if we had if we had activated one of the foundational, music artists in St. Louis, let's say let Chingy or Jaquan or Nelly been politically activated, how much more of a reach and impact would have been made whenever they got on stage or were brought out to talk about, a serious issue. And unfortunately, since that didn't happen, there were people who tried, elders who tried, youth who tried, and they just could not command, the stage. They couldn't command the mic. And I never had quite thought about the transferable skills that come with grooming yourself on an open mic, stage presence, breath work, intonation, inflection, just how even taking a breath in a moment before you speak can calm a whole entire room down.
Right.
And so, of course, having that type of power does come with, it wielded the wrong way. You can definitely weaponize a mic to incite and agitate. And to me, I had a lot of choices to make when it came to how I wanted to present myself to my community. Like I said before, I definitely had some very heavy thoughts on where I thought we were going and what we needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that it wasn't about me.
Right.
And so as I decided what style of MC I wanted to be, I really was more so looking at what most spaces that I was in went without. And because I saw this deficit there, it allowed me to try to explore how I could command that space, in my own way. And I can confidently say, through my experience of being an MC at WordUp, when I did go out and moderate other spaces and other events, I drew on that experience. I drew on being able to control a crowd, and I was able to take the skills that I had gained and really show the style of speaker that I wanted to see. If I was in the audience and I was listening to somebody talk to me about something that was happening in my community, how would I want those words to come across, and how would I want that to touch my heart so that I could do something about it? And so I just really tried to channel a lot of that. And then also, this is us coming out 80s babies. Like we saw some of the best showmanship when it came to entertainment that is still shaping and molding, people's style of performance, even on, these social media apps. And so, looking at these original hosts like Martin Lawrence and
Right.
and watching, how I want to say because I can't say that we styled WordUp after like a Def Jam. I can't say that we styled WordUp after Comic View, or we styled WordUp after like a TV show or anything. We made it our own. Like,
Right.
it was totally unique to us and our energy. But I do feel like growing up and seeing that also allowed us to kind of feel confident that when we did make a joke, or when we did, say something that was in reference to a movie or
Yeah.
a song, like, people got it. They got
Yeah,
us, you know what I'm saying?
The connection. Yep.
Exactly. And so we brought that sort of, I don't want to call it hipness, but it was like a way that we were able to infuse our knowledge base and our experiences and our influences, and be able to turn it into something that was our own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I definitely grew as an MC, because I never really was one of those people that was like in a rush to be in the forefront. I think if anything, I actually really wanted to be behind the scenes with most
I was
things.
gonna say that, yeah.
And just with me also growing more confident within myself, people saw that, I guess, me being more confident brought kind of like a glow about me and a calmness about me. So it was like, okay, well, just have her do it.
Has there been a time where, cause you and I've seen it from other spoken word artists, where they just get lost in their performance and the emotions just take over? Have you had those moments?
I will say that with the style of poetry that I'm going to say I default to, that it's rare for me to, because a lot of my poetry, even to this day, is not really about me specifically. If I could say that, like, in my more intimate pieces, that these are pieces that people have never heard, pieces that I've probably written at a particular point or for a particular person, that if I were to relive those moments, that people would definitely feel the emotional weight of those pieces. But when I perform, my intention is for people to feel, of course, that whatever I've written is very genuine. And so whatever mood I'm looking to invoke, I would like to say that it overtakes the listener more than it overtakes me in delivery.
Got you. So this here, I was pleasantly, I ain't gonna say surprised. I felt like, not saying because it was me or anything, but because I knew of you and your love of music. When I realized, or not realized, but I found out that you officially became a DJ. And I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, and it took off so quick, Fred.
Yeah.
I would say this, like, by proxy, because WordUp has its own vibe and energy. It's really important for me to at least have that consistency. So whenever we brought on a DJ, when you weren't with us, I was very hands-on with them about what I wanted them to play.
Right.
So because we weren't heavy into like trap, rap, and things like that, like, right, I would always caution them to be very mindful of playing top 40s.
Exactly.
This ain't the twerk time. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get me wrong, you want to drop one here and there, cool, it might make some people happy, but we have a diverse space. We do have so many other age groups here together. The challenge is to be able to keep that vibe going. And so let me help make this easier for you. I can let you know what really works in our crowd. And if you stay within, these certain genres, and I might even come back there and be like, hey, play this song.
Right.
It's all done with respect, of course, but with help to ensure that the vibes are going to stay consistent with the show. And so for years after that, we had our business for 3 years after you. We also brought in a brother named Kutta. Damo was with us for a little while as well. I will say it was either Damo and then Al, or Al then Damo. Kutta came in. We had She Beast for a hot second.
Shouts out to her.
Right, shouts to her. Let me think. And then Clever. Clever has been with us these last 3 years. And I still give Clever songs to play. Really? I literally still give him songs. No, mostly because, it's DJs that want to be known for their style. So when you book this DJ, you know they're coming with a certain type of energy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you want one of those DJs is gonna come with the club bangers. It's gonna come with the, you know, and got the ad libs pulled out and the echo, you know, and then they'll drop a whole different song. Like if you want that sort of dynamicism, you know who to book for that type of vibe, right? But we are open mic. You know what I'm saying? Like this isn't about you. This is about what we're doing here in this space. And if anything, you know, Fred, I would love to say just my passion for music, vibes, energy, frequency. I mean, it's all the same thing. I started to see just how we were getting the first preview of someone who may have that spark to be bigger than, you know, the open mic space. And so I'm like, wow, like why is this aspect of my event holding back on that access that they're getting to literally listen to some of these people's music for the first time? So it was maybe shortly after you talking to Al Business, I said, hey Al, I think it'd be a great opportunity for you to build up some playlists so that we can start letting people know, you know, that we got all these incredible artists that are coming through to the show. And I don't know. I don't know why it didn't stick or stay as a platform that people who I brought in as DJs wanted to launch from. But I seriously still am right now sitting next to you feeling like it's something that we definitely, I can't let them sit on this no more. You know, I have songs going way back when we first developed the email for WordUp. Like I have literal buckets full of songs, music that people have never heard before, or songs coming out of St. Louis where people really feel like, oh, well, St. Louis music is not doing anything. The lies you tell, you know what I'm saying? Like we have heard some whole bangers. We have some artists right now that should be regularly spun on the radio, but it takes us. And that's one thing I also love about WordUp as a platform is that, you know, we are in a position to help stabilize the independent creative. And so being able to surround them with the supportive community that they need, you don't always need 100,000 people listen to your music. Sometimes you just need a dedicated 100, you know, and as long as they're buying your songs and playing your music, especially when you have an opportunity like being a vibe selector, you know, you never know. In that one moment you get the opportunity, you play somebody's song where somebody comes up to you and be like, who is that? And I've had it happen. So that's one thing I really absolutely love, being brave enough to step into that space, because I saw a deficit. I saw a lack of proactivity and a lack of cohesion that says, hey, I'm more than a DJ. I have an ear for sound. I have an ear for what's coming out of my city. And I want to be a person that's in the forefront of the conversation when it comes to exposing them to new music. And I just couldn't sit back and let people who I brought in who had access not take the opportunity and make it something great. So in the midst of me investing in the equipment, because I was like, well, I'm just not going to buy, you know, a controller. I'm going to get the speaker. I'm going to get me I got 2 speakers. I got speaker stands. I got subwoofer. I don't went and upgraded. Got me a MacBook. I'm trying to get all of it because it, to me, just said, hey, you know, if I can't get these people to do this type of work and see the value in what this work is, then that just opens up another opportunity for me to utilize that the best way that I see fit. And we have so many genres that we speak to. You know, we're not even just rap music. You know what I'm saying? Like our R&B scene is popping, and not even just R&B scene. We got a guy who comes regularly and does disco rap. Ain't never heard of that. And then we also have some very, very, I'm talking about like surprises where it comes to alternative music. And I'm not just talking about like rock and roll. You know, I'm talking about like true creativity, ingenuity, even with some of these artists who aren't lyricists and singers and songwriters, but they make beats. You know what I'm saying? Like they have unique sound. And that's one thing that I'm sorry, like that's going to always have value, because we're in a space where a lot of people are trying to emulate and copy what works, you know, and they're afraid of doing something different, but we want different.
So like for the event that it showed that you
Blues on the
DJing
Block. Big shout out to Robert Nelson for the opportunity.
So for events like that and other events, I know you've been at Club Viva.
Yeah, I actually met Viva this upcoming Wednesday. That's right. Reggae time, you know.
Okay. So yeah, I was gonna say it takes me back when you and I was still at that like initiation, no, not initiation, but getting to know each other stage. And I recall we used to stay in the loop, and you and I was up just up all night, and you had like records everywhere, and I was like, oh yeah, she know her stuff. So it was just, you was always saying you wanted to DJ. It was just a matter of you just taking it seriously and going for it. So when I saw on social media that you officially DJ InnerGy, I was like, that's the Scorpio in her. You know what I'm saying? Because like you just said, you saw something and you wanted to bring a certain flavor, and you said, you know, with some me always trying to depend on others, I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing going.
And
I
DJ'd the whole year.
Yeah.
I invested in a system. Legacy was always throwing me curveballs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I really wanted to safeguard the event. You know, anything can go wrong. Speaker could be busted, mics could be missing, all kinds of things, cords, so many things. And so it forced me on the back end of my production to say, hey, am I really a producer if I can't come with my own equipment? And it was important to me, you know, to have that, because also if I'm bringing in someone new and they don't know what they need and I don't know what they need, then that's another area that I need to be educated in. That was something I relied on you for, you know, to do the sound engineering, to make sure that the quality sounded good, to make sure that everything was set up right. And because I relied on you for that, when I had to jump behind there to see what was going on, it was a challenge for me, but I enjoyed that because I always like to know the ins and outs of whatever it is that I'm doing. So being able to work with other individuals in that space as well, it also showed me the level and caliber of skill that you had grown up into with us and even before us, because you came in already having a very nice setup. So, you know, that allowed me to already start out at a certain level, and I want to maintain that level. So I really appreciate you for that. But yeah, when I jumped in there, when I had my own system and everything, it was different for me because I actually took a step back from hosting and let Lewis host and I DJ. And so it just brought another dynamic. And I tell people this all the time. Like, I bring in people on a need to need case basis, but I am my favorite host and I am my favorite DJ.
Hey.
And if I could do it all at once, I absolutely would.
Right.
Love it. I like being in the people. I like being amongst the people as well. And so being behind the DJ booth did keep me from being able to make my rounds and to be able to produce to the level by which I felt like I was involved in every show. And while it was a little bit of a break, because I also didn't have people pulling on me, I'm busy, I'm DJing. Like, you can't just pull me away and pull me outside and, you know, have these conversations and put out all these fires. But it also showed me how much I needed to grow my team, because I was taking on a lot of responsibility, and I felt like there were people that were coming into my life at the time that were fully capable of handling those things. So shout out to everybody that was around during that year that I DJ'd, because I mean, I definitely did, and I held it down. But when I saw also, in contrast, the value of what I bring to the event as a curator, when I called Clever, because I worked with Clever during the pandemic to do the closed mic at Hollywood. When I brought in Clever and I asked him, you know, if he would be comfortable coming to DJ on Tuesdays, we had already had the reputation of doing the Sunday night vibes online. And
oh yeah, I recall that.
Yeah. So when he said he had the availability, I brought him in. I kind of gave him the ropes, and we just jumped straight in from there. And so it's just, and Clever is not a everyday DJ. You know, he's a music producer. And like I said, because we already had a rapport and I knew that he had the equipment, and that he was willing, it's not something that we heavily like market. So it's not like people calling me like, hey, can I book your DJ to, you know, do this, do that? I'm like, look, this man do what he want to do when he want to do it. You know what I'm saying? And he's also the co-host of Fresh Produce. So shout out to Clever for the levels that he.
You know this.
What?
He's also my cousin.
No way. He never said, I'm done.
Through marriage. Yep. Through marriage. So I was like, ain't that something that you had me for 6 years and now you got my cousin hold things down now. So
definitely.
I'm surprised you didn't already know.
I didn't know. You know, Kevin Clever, he comes, he handles his business.
He's come in and do his job.
You know, he catches a vibe. He's gotten a lot more comfortable at Java at our new spot. So we said goodbye to Legacy May of this year. Legacy definitely threw us a lot of curveballs with some changes that they made. They sold half of the venue to a restaurant, and they did a lot of remodeling to the space. And while we rode through all of those changes, I think that what ultimately we were looking to do was to evolve, because I feel like we hit a little bit of a plateau in that space as far as the talent and our growth and our ideas. And we need a new challenge. You know, we needed something that was going to get us out of our comfort zone. And aesthetically, after doing Hallelujah and the online series, I love that space. You know, I love the tech ability that we were able to integrate. And I also realized just how important it is to get these voices beyond our in-person event. So I needed something that was going to give that visual appeal that would also raise the bar as well. And I had actually had my eyes on Java for quite some time before we got the opportunity to move into the space. And I say quite some time, literally 2 years, I had been trying to reach out to representatives to see how we could make some sort of arrangement to transition to there. And lo and behold, April hits and I get a phone call from a young man who's doing some booking for Java. And he's like, we got to have you. You got to come here. And this is before he even knew that Lewis was my co-host. And their brother. And they like grew up together, frat brothers, something to that level. Because when I mentioned Lewis, man, he about peed on himself. But he just knew, it was like he just knew from then and there that bringing us in was going to be one of the best decisions that he ever made. And I absolutely agree. You know, when artists come into this space and they see this platform, I didn't do it with the intention to intimidate the artistry. I did it with the intention to be able to produce something that if I was at home and I was watching people from St. Louis perform, what should that look like? What would that look like to me? And how should that look for me to say, hey, they're doing big things? And to me, this opportunity put us on a level of some of the platforms that I've been watching for years. Poetry Me Now, Poetry After Dark. There's also Spoken Words, you know, these huge, I'm talking about huge platforms, swanky clubs, lighting on deck, sound engineers. I'm talking about full scale productions. And there hadn't been anything like that came out of St. Louis yet. I would say size-wise, Poetic Justice could get a crowd, but the production quality was not there. You know what I'm saying? And so people would go because of the hype, but they would quickly find out that it wasn't all that it was built up to be. Meanwhile, we had everything that they needed at WordUp, but we didn't have those same partnerships. We didn't have people throwing money at us, and we didn't have that same stability. And so continue to push this thing forward, elevate it, and then, you know, give it a facelift every year had always been a challenge, especially with, like I said, some of the curveballs that we were thrown. But when this opportunity came, I told him to give me a month because he wanted it the following week. And while we haven't been used to that, I said, you know what? I'm not a fan of that process.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's absolutely, I'm talking about like Legacy got to be burnt down.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. Like it could not, like I could not put my body through that type of shock because again, people took for granted the amount of work that went on the back end to, you know, keep this thing established. And I knew the transition to the bigger space meant that I need to have a crew. I need to have setup and breakdown. I need to be able to, you know, make sure that everything was where it needs to be and that we can stay consistent. And I'll be honest, Fred, you know, we started this thing very small and it stayed very small because people have come and gone over the years with misconceptions as to what we're trying to create. We're a business, we're professionals at the end of the day. And people come to the open mic for friendship and camaraderie and community. And to me, that is important. But when you are establishing something and it is a business, you want to be able to work with professionals.
Right.
And so, but also being very transparent about where you're at. We still very a very grassroots. This is not a money grab for us. This is about us being able to have this space that we prefer, that is what we have made it. Like, I can't say that I enjoy any other open mic outside of WordUp. Not like to the degree of like I'm there every Sunday, I'm there every Friday, I'm there every Monday. I cannot say that. And I literally have
to
seen
have
people
the consistency to still be doing this
I've
day.
seen not even just the same artists, but the same people show up every single week. This is and leave coming, needing something and leaving exactly what they came for. And that again, like, reminds me of just how it is our passion. It has developed purpose, but it's so much bigger, than us. And even during the time period where I was feeling a little run down, a little tired, I try to scale it back to the second and fourth Tuesday. I did my best to publicize it.
Yeah,
I did my best.
Yeah.
And baby, when they showed up on that Legacy parking lot, talking about they're gonna do the open mic outside, I called Lewis. I was like, Lewis, if you don't get your ass down there, I said, boy, if you don't get your ass down there, I will be there. Just hold the people down until I get there. So we could not scale it back from the second and fourth Tuesday. But what we did do, because we're a weekday, was that we did a weekend spin-off. For a little while. So I partnered up with another Lewis, shout out to Emcee Trey, Hustle City, incredible artist himself. At the time they had the storefront inside of Tech Artista in the Grove. So we've been in the Grove twice now. And so we did a Saturday showcase where we would book from the WordUp vibe. So WordUp kind of became a proving ground and a resource, a pool that we could pull from for artistry. And we would book the big three: live music, poetry, and comedy, so we can give them a taste of what they missed during the week on the weekend. So we called it WordUp on the weekend. And we saw all new artists, all new guests. And it was literally sold out every Saturday that we hosted it.
That's dope.
It was super dope. But what I will say is, I'm using this professional word a lot, but when we consider being professionally paid, that's when, we end up having to have those hard conversations. So when we trying to bring in other talent to work with us, they didn't always see it as a opportunity for them to, develop themselves through. They saw it as, oh, this is a gig. This is what I want to get paid. Right. So, it really grounded me having those experiences and realizing like I'm not even getting paid what I'm worth with all my experience. I'm producing, hosting, marketing, graphic design. Like I'm doing every single thing, and I'm paying myself less than what I pay the people who come and help me, be a part of this thing. And it just is like, yo, like this is really a labor of love for me, and I could charge more and I could ask for more money, and I'll be well within my right to do so. But I didn't want that to impact the quality of people that will come, because there's a lot of people that can throw money at something and totally ruin it. Yeah. And I felt like we needed that balance, and we still needed to be able to show up for people who could not hit that price point, who couldn't, it's not even that they can't afford it though. And that was another thing that I had learned, because while we were doing the free, if my arrangement is the door and everything that's captured at the bar is, for the bar, if you can come into my event free, but you still support the bar, that's not you supporting us.
Right.
And so it really showed me who my investors were. It showed me who really supported the work that I was doing and who really saw me for who I was. And so it happened so magically, because literally the last Tuesday we had a Legacy, a young lady showed up, and maybe a month or two prior to that, it was a group of new folks coming through. And so they're like, wow, you do all of this? Like, oh my God, like this is crazy, this is incredible. Like we go to this place, with this right here, this is everything. And so they would show up to the show early without asking me. And they would come in and do whatever I asked them to do. If it's wiping down tables, setting up chairs, hitting bathrooms, and they would still pay to get in. And they would still bring people to come. I said, y'all done changed the game for me.
Wow.
Because I used to try to appeal to people's good sense. I used to try to give artists opportunities to build with me. I've had many groups cycle through, people that I wanted to help mentor and groom and help, get them more stage time and help them with their writing and so many things. But it's like for them to really see me,
Right.
and they Scorpios.
Hey, let's go.
Okay,
Scorpio
and they
gang,
Scorpios.
gang.
I got more Scorpios around me than I have ever had in my life.
Wow.
And I just was like, you know what? It made me feel confident that I could make the transition to Java because I had some people who genuinely wanted to see WordUp grow and
on a better scale.
It was everything. Like seriously, one of the young ladies, she's one of the most talented artists that I've seen in a while. Singer songwriter, out of California. She moved to St. Louis a couple years back, and found her voice and started performing on stages. She got her first experience at Create Place. I don't know if you know anything about that.
I've heard about it.
But these brothers, they created almost like an artist co-working space where they provide visuals, and they have a studio and they do events there as well. She had performed there and found out about us through them and started coming consistently. But she is like really one of those sleeper cells where it's like you look at her, you never imagine that she's so talented. But she also has a business, a cleaning business. So she was perfect to pull in to help, clean things down, wipe things down, sanitize. And then my great friend Kiara, also transplant from Alabama. Excuse me. I keep trying to say she's from Alabama. She from Arkansas, y'all. She from Arkansas, coming with that good old, hospitality. Just really, like, she saw what we were doing and just was like, "How are you doing everything?" And I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, when you were building something and you want other people to be a part of it, you also have to show them that it's going to get done with or without them. And that's something that was very important. That's an important lesson I had to learn, because people are very rarely going to believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And if you're so quick to try to pass off work onto other people, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to, what are you coming with? Pass the work off to me, but you're going to pay me. You know what I'm saying? And so I had to be very honest about what my role was and why I had so many jobs on the back end. Because as we are building this thing up, but we also trying to stay very true to what it is, I also struggled with keeping the authenticity of it being that open mic energy, trying to charge people more money. You know what I'm saying? So it has always been a weird space for me as a business owner to be able to extract value from the open mic. Because to me, it was like, maybe the value might not be in that ticket price point, but it could be in other assets that I can build onto the show. And so keeping that in mind, since I'm missing the playlist and me growing in my ability to be able to develop what is next for WordUp, now having so many people expressing how WordUp has been an integral part to their success, to me, it's like, how do we amplify that and becoming more in this digital space, having this larger stage, having this, having the access to more tech now than before.
Right.
It has now put me in a position where, it's got me thinking about shows. It's got me thinking about, visuals. We have artists that have visuals to match their music. We have artists that don't necessarily need a crowd of 100 people to perform in front of to still be seen, felt, and heard. And so looking at some of these other platforms like Poetry After Dark, Poetry Me Now, and Smoking Words, they are heavy on the visuals. They give the people a sample of what it is they're missing out on. And that does help them pack out their events. And that does help them get those artists even more visibility. And to me, that's really the key to what it is that I'm doing. So, Java is not my space. I don't own it. And I think that Legacy was actually the first to teach me the lesson in ownership. Because when you can't control what goes on outside of your event night and anything can go wrong, it goes wrong because you don't, it's not your space.
Right.
So you can't dictate where stuff goes and what's supposed to be here and what's not here and what's broken, who needs to fix it. You can't dictate anything. And so I said, well, it's coming. You planted the seed. Because Mr. Nix, he said it to me. He was like, well, get your own place. And then you can tell somebody, he said it to me real straight. I said, you're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. But that humbled me because I was coming in, frustrated about, things being broken or things being missing or, again, curveballs. And I realized that, it really was a seed that was being sown to inspire me to want to get into my own space. And now having this experience at Java, I can say wholeheartedly that before no one had ever showed me how much commerce we generated. Yeah, we brought in vendors. Yeah, people bought food. Yeah, people bought drinks. But to get a solid number of just how much we were pouring back into community at that time, it probably would have pushed me to get my own location before we ever made a move to North County. I'll be honest. But working with Java and seeing just how much we really do impact community with the money that we generate on a Tuesday night, that it had me thinking to myself, you know, if I captured all of that, where we could be, and what would it really truly take to see that happen? And is that something that I'm ready for? And with all the things I've done successfully outside of the open mic platform, from art exhibitions to festivals to, I just DJ'd the Eric Badu art experience at the SL Artworks.
Nice.
When I did the Blues on the Block twice, they brought me back by popular demand. And I'm only at Viva because of popular demand, not because I tried to finesse my way in and I knew somebody. I did know some people, but when DJ Wiz looked at me, he said, pick a day. I felt like he understood what was going on. And it's just like, you know, if I had my own space to do all the great things that I am into, you know, and to have, you know, this space to be able to dream as big as I like, and to be able to be in a space that is mine, where I get to dictate what goes on, what's in it, what's happening.
Right.
That's got to be what's next.
Yep.
That is. It is absolutely what's next. So yeah, I heard it right here.
It is.
Conversations.
You heard it.
I wasn't gonna say nothing for a while because, you know, when you talk about your ideas to people before, you know, it's something that they warn you about. Yes. And but I will say, you know, it's really been sitting on my heart for a while now, and if it's divine, if it's destined for me, and then that's where we're going. I think we deserve it, you know, as creatives that are not afraid of making mistakes and getting out there and getting it wrong and trying again and getting it wrong and trying again. Now with I think that having a space will be cumulative, you know, of all of these experiences, to say, hey, we don't have to keep doing business with bad business doers. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to keep meeting the demands of people who don't understand the value of what we bring to the community. We don't have to limit our vision of what we want to produce based off someone else's creative ideas, because it's not our space. So we can't just transform everything. You know, I even pitched to Mr. Nix a mural to do the Legends of Legacy on the wall in that room, since they had done all the upgrades. I said that would be amazing, but we kept going back and forth about who would be on the wall. I'm like, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. There would genuinely be people who would come into this space and feel a type of way if they saw certain faces on the wall, even though all of these people poured their blood, sweat, and tears into building this place up into what it is today. You know, so, you know, it would be nice to have a space that's neutral, you know, that is not so heavily laden with all of the experiences and the energy of what happened before it, you know. So a clean slate, but also its own opportunity for us to impact and influence generations to come, because we're already doing it. You know, we still have kids coming. My favorite experience from when you were DJing with me, Fred, was when we had Julia Crack on the show. When Joey Crack, we've seen some of the best coming, and I'm talking about like the skill level that they're on now, doing Netflix specials. We have selling out the Fox Theater. Like, I'm still in shock. Okay. And we heard their first material on that stage. But when Joey Craig brought his 8-year-old son to the show, and he did that set, and I'm talking about, I was crying laughing when he was talking about this cat. I'll never forget his set, because it was like he was the youngest person that ever performed on our stage. And I think that was another thing that was very unique about us, that we tried our best, you know, to acknowledge the fact that Legacy is a venue, not a bar. Right. So because of that, people were able to bring in their children. And although we didn't market it like, oh, this is family friendly, you know, people who dared to do it, they genuinely wanted to support their child, and they wanted to give their child the opportunity to perform in front of people. And that meant a lot for them. And so to have him do that, he got a standing ovation. He was so good. He got a standing ovation. And I just kind of said and thought to myself how he is never going to forget that happened to him. He's like, we really just cannot fathom the impact of how this seemingly small event reverberated across so many pathways and lifelines. Like,
I'm glad you brought that up, because another highlight was, remember when my best friend came into town from Arizona at the time. He and his, at the time, bandmate, Witherwork. And
I enjoyed them so much.
And
they came back a few times.
Yeah, they complimented. They gave one of the highest compliments for WordUp, because they knew, of course, my boy Ed knew about where the location was. So, in the city, and they saw, of course, all Black audience. So, not saying they had bad intentions or bad, negative thoughts, but they were so humbled and so amazed at how they were being received
yeah.
in regards to their performance.
Yeah, but
like they really enjoyed
they would be
vibe.
An alt band. They were coming with some music and I think that's definitely something that I love about how we developed the platform early on, is that we kept it very open. St. Louis is a very diverse city.
Yeah.
And because we were able to stay centrally located, it also allowed more people to feel safe coming to it. And although Legacy is like, in a little bit,
borderline hood,
with it being on Delmar and Delmar having its own, reputation,
right.
Because we spun it like it was in a loop. It was a lot more people that were willing to give it a shot. And,
right.
And we've always been able to draw in college students and professionals and whatnot, and again, like having a parking lot with a lighted parking lot, that's front facing the street, people felt a lot more secure. And I can sit here with all honesty and truth and say that even if there was a disgruntled artist or maybe a disgruntled guest, that we had never had anything negative happen.
Nope.
I mean, with all of some of the things that we've seen happen in the city, and people can't even, go outside or whatever. Like, never had an incident on a parking lot, never had an incident inside of the event night. Like, it just was not the type of energy that people brought.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful, for that, because at the end of the day, like, people want to feel safe while they're coming to support something.
Yeah.
And that matters, especially in St. Louis, because baby,
you ain't lying. So, real quick, once again, this is Smoooth Conversations. Hope you all have been enjoying this wonderful and anticipated conversation. Yours truly, Smooth, with 3 O's, along with EnnerGy. Incredible conversation.
ERGY. That's
there,
right.
Get it right. So I want to know this. Take away the stage. Take away DJing. Take away hosting, MCing. Who is EnnerGy behind everything else?
Aw, Deja. Yeah, good old Deja. The bright-eyed, open-minded, big-hearted young lady who never quite fit in, but always found a home for herself. And so, like I said, a lot of the things that I went through in my childhood kind of came full circle when I started the open mic. I was always in drama, theater, arts, creative writing. I was a ballerina. I played sports, very active, very just bold and, kind of loud, but extremely optimistic. That's just my default setting. I'm always seeing the silver lining and leaning into the positive. And so I can't say that I was completely afraid of what the opportunity would be to start the open mic, but I can say that I did not know that I was going to tap into this kind of latent pool of energy that I had already been pouring into my whole life, and have these people around me nurture me and pull it out of me. So being inspired by folks that are brave enough to share their stories and stand in front of a room full of people that they didn't know and leave that room knowing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That took audacity, and I feel like for the most part, EnnerGy and Deja are two sides of the same coin, whereas EnnerGy may give you many chances to get it right, because how we do even people on stage, rewind, run it back, right. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna keep encouraging you got this. Deja has Daisha has a more realistic approach to things. You know, it is the boundary of, you know, flowing and not forcing things. You know, I could be adamant on seeing a vision and adamant on carrying something through, but also seeing the signs and understanding that, you know, timing is everything. And, you know, there were situations where we were forced to make decisions last minute, and it was across the board, whether it came with businesses, partnerships, collaborators. You know, we brought in food. We had to bring in food vendors at some point. We had to do so many things. And so, you know, to be able to rely on myself was also me learning more about the capability of Daisha, you know. And while InnerGy was what I presented to the public, to me, InnerGy has always been a play on words, you know, because we are all energy, you know. So that was my way of saying that I am you, you are me. We are one, you know, we are coexisting. And I spell it INNERGY with the G capital, because the G stands for so many different things, you know, at any point in time. And it allowed me, as Daisha, developing into InnerGy, allowed me to reimagine who I could be, especially in a world where people are so quick to try to tell you who you are and what you can and can't do. InnerGy was my way of controlling my own narrative for myself and what I wanted to do with my life, because all my life I never thought that I could be an artist as a career, like that it wasn't a serious thing, that it wasn't a lucrative thing. And then to step into a age of technology where the internet is like changing the world, and you know, creativity is in a demand like people could never have anticipated before. All those years that I've been asked when I was gonna get a real job.
Right.
It was like, how much real can you get, you know? But it was definitely deep for me, because I also didn't grow up with a very musically talented or performing arts family. Although my father and mother are very gifted creatives, you know, they fell into the same trap that I almost did, where they couldn't see themselves providing for a family with, you know, their interest in their, you know, their natural talents, their natural gifts. And I felt bad for them, but I also felt like that couldn't be my path, because I saw the lives that they were living. I'm like, I don't want that. You know, I want something more for myself. And when I realized that I could have fun and meet new people and relax and be myself, and people will pay me to do that, it was a wrap.
Right. For real? I can get all this? Let's go.
It was a wrap. Right. Like, I'm like, are you serious? Why haven't I been doing this my whole life? You know, so again, like learning that this is so much bigger, like to be able to even impart that little bit of wisdom on some children is incredible, because it allows them to cut through the muck earlier on instead of feeling like you have to conform to society. You make society what you want it to be, and people will align with it. And people have aligned with it. You know, WordUp is its own thing. It's its own living, breathing thing. And I would love to see it go on with or without InnerGy. But I think it will forever have InnerGy because of what, you know, how it got started. So however it's going to, you know, adapt and transform and take shape, you know, only time will tell. But I will say, you know, I've spoken to existence in this conversation. Having our own location that suits our needs, that is operated by one of us, matters.
Yeah.
And, you know, keeping true to, I don't necessarily say grassroots, but keeping true to the authenticity of what open mic is, and the community that gathers around that, and how we can drive that boat wherever we want to take it to. Being able to have that power, yes. Like some people would cringe at the idea, but to me, it allows me to expose people to new opportunities to do more and to be more impactful. And I think that that's really what it takes now moving forward, like change agents, people who really want to be the difference that they want to see in the community that they live in. St. Louis is definitely very important to all of the artists that come and perform. But at the same time, we don't see ourselves as being limited to St. Louis.
Yeah.
We see ourselves as, we know that if you can make it in St. Louis, you can make it anywhere.
So as we close out this amazing conversation, not an interview conversation, we talked about the MC, the entrepreneur, activist, DJ, and you brought this up a couple times, but the sacrifice as well that has come into everything that you've been doing has been for your family. Talk about InnerGy, the mother.
Oh, my little baby. Oh my goodness. When I started this platform, I was homeschooling my two children, just trying to figure some things out. Oh my goodness. Wow. He was 2 in this picture. He'll be 18 next year. When I think about how much time and energy that has been poured into developing up this platform, I took a lot of time away from my children, to build my life with strangers. And, that honestly sits into why I don't ever feel like I really owe anybody anything to this day, with what I have built, because of that, because of, the times I've had to struggle to put the show on, the times that, I really wanted to be at home, or I wanted to travel, or, so many things that I kept myself from participating in because, of my commitment to the platform. And even at some point they were coming and helping out. They were at the shows with me at Legacy, those very first few years. And so this is the Booze on the Block. So it was one piece to me, to allow my children to see what I'm doing, because then they could more understand what was taking me away from my family, but it also showed them what was keeping me sane and stable and calm and able to do all the things that I need to do as a mother and a provider in a single family household. And so I think that oftentimes when you become a parent, you think that you have to give up on your own dreams. And I think that that's a very common misconception, because I think that children learn more from you when you are able to show up in your fullness, without regret, because a child will feel your regret and will feel like you are, like they're responsible in some way for your failures of, in whatever capacity, that you did not pursue your dreams and you didn't accomplish goals. And now, there's this weight or expectation on them so you can live vicariously through them and their accomplishments. But every child, doesn't have the same capabilities, isn't gifted with the same skill set and talents. And so I think that it's even more cool that my kids are actually introverted. I'm the outgoing, outdoorsy. Wow. I want to be at all the events. I want to go to the festivals and the shows. And my kids like, I don't know. You can go. or if even on the flip side, if I did not want to leave them and I wanted to be more at home and I wanted to be, they would eventually get sick of me. They'd be like, "You got something to do? Don't you got something to
do?" So who's this?
This is my niece, Adriana.
Okay.
So me and my sister actually had our first children at the same time. They're our oldest children are a month and a few days apart, which is really special because she and I are actually a year and 8 days apart. So she's my closest sibling, and through our journey of growing up and going through life, we kind of went our own separate ways as adults, but it was through our pregnancies that we came back together. And she's been one of my hugest supporters in my event. And my niece actually has worked my event. Yeah. So she's worked, I've recruited all my kids to the show at some point.
Yeah, right.
But Tristan was working my door at a point in time, just learn the ins and outs, the ropes of the business. Right. And I felt like it was a way for us to grow together. And they absolutely enjoyed the vibes of the show. And so my niece, after my son, he ended up moving to Maryland with some of my other family last year. My niece stepped up and started working the door for me at the shows. And one thing I love about her is that she always loves to give me feedback on artists. But her dad actually is a performing artist, and he's actually a member. So we opened it up so that we could show more love to artists. We see a lot of demands, and like I said, I'm always here for the pivot. So I'm just trying to figure out ways to streamline things. And because I had so many artists coming late and wanted to get up earlier in the show, people would actually try to pay me more money to go up earlier. And I'm like, look, like it's not fair. This is like too much.
That's the whole Pandora's box.
literally. And so I didn't want to be accused of showing favoritism or kind of have or build up a reputation of not being fair. So I said, well, hey, you get a membership. What we can do is if you're a member, you can determine what number you want to go on. We'll give you that luxury. We'll also let you bring an extra person with you, and we'll give you reserved seats up until 9:00. So if it gets full and packed in here, you definitely gonna have a spot if you show up before 9. And if you're gonna go up on stage and you need to get somebody to capture, your performance, you'll be able to bring a person with you, and they'll be your special guest. And that's the least we can do if you're gonna pay it forward. So we had the ticket price point for artists was like $10 at the time. So basically, to get a membership, you'd have to pay the $40 for the month up front. But usually, these artists knew that they were going to come every single week. So it's like the value was in bringing that +1 because the ticket price went up to $20. I stopped playing with y'all. I just thought I did. I was working too hard. People was getting on my nerves. They weren't hitting the streets with me, passing out flyers. I'm talking about I was literally passing out 1,000 flyers a week, just trying to make sure that I was engaging people in conversation about the showcase. But just imagine, the level of juggling my schedule with my own personal pursuits, things that I was interested in and invested in, a job, my kids, and then still trying my best to get the word out to the community that this is going on. Because social media can only do so much.
Yeah.
And it just was like, no, something's got to give, especially as I got better with my graphic design skills. That means I got to get better software. That means that, if Eventbrite wants to charge me a fee, to make tickets available online, then that's got to come from somewhere. And the website has its own monthly, cost on top of, like I said, those flyers. We got a step repeat backdrop. We want to make more investments into products, t-shirts, sweatshirts, tote bags, notebooks, so many things. And so I'm like, all of that takes investment. And I just was not seeing the growth that I wanted to see with the work that I was putting in. And so I was like, well, I want to work smarter, not harder. So we developed the memberships. We went up on the price and we stuck with it. So
there it is.
But when we went to Java, we did open back up the free. And that had more to do with establishing ourselves in a new space.
Right.
So if you ever look on Eventbrite, you will see all of the WordUps for the rest of the year. And right now, if you RSVP, the tickets are free until Monday, 7 p.m.
So if I decide, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just show up on a humbug. Do I got to go ahead and pay?
Are you talking about you, Fred?
Yes.
You talking about you as a tenured resident artist.
So I got to be like, hey, man, I started this thing. You know who I am?
Because they show them on. They be like, let me check with InnerGy because I don't know who you is. You ain't been to a show. You ain't shared a flyer. You ain't shared a post. You ain't tell nobody you was coming. Like, they might end up charging. They might charge you. Now, you catch me at the front, and I'll be like, oh, no, give me a wristband. We gonna hook up. We gonna hook Fred up. We gonna take care of him. But, I like that I'm surrounded by people who look out for me that way. Because I will say that there was a period of time where it seemed like people always just wanted to play. And to me, it's like your best way of showing me that you support me is by showing up. But how you show up for me does matter. And if you show up and you want to take away, then that's not support. That's not support. That's now you flexing. And when people, and I don't, and it's an energy to come with the flex. Because baby, they still, especially with this bigger platform, I ain't never had, and came out the woodwork trying to flex. Oh, this is nice. That's nice. Well, I got such and such in town. I want to come through. I want to bring them through to the show. I said, how many people come with you? Because if I say yes, then you're going to bring 6 people and then you're going to expect me to let all y'all in for free.
Right.
And that's not going to happen. And if anything, you bringing in money from out of town, you need to circulate that dollar in St. Louis, not take away from it. That don't make sense. Why? Because you want to show them that you got people that's doing stuff on this scale? How does that help me? You know what I'm saying? So we've always been sitting back thinking to ourselves how we can strengthen our partnerships and how we can let people know that we're available for collaboration when it comes to that. Because if we don't advance, again, Fred, what I say, you ain't sharing no posts. You ain't telling nobody you was coming. You ain't bring nobody that was paying with you. That is not support. You know what I'm saying? So when you can articulate ways in which people can show for you, it's easy to say, by all means, what are you talking about? If you don't get in here, you know what I'm saying? Like you didn't showed up and did some, So when that changes and then you get that kind of resistance from people who don't feel like they should pay to play, so to speak, it also reminds you of the genre of artistry that each different group is in, and that there are certain groups that are conditioned to pay to play. There are artists that pay hundreds of dollars to get on stages before our bigger names. You know, there are artists that know for if they jump out the gate asking how much it costs, you know, to be a part of it. And so when you see the difference between the mentality of someone who values the time and the opportunity on your platform to do their thing versus somebody who feels like you need them more than they need you, they very surely get humble and realize that when people show up in that 7 to 8 o'clock space and they expect to be up within the first 10 slots and they seen somebody show up at 10 o'clock that end up in one of them first 10 slots before them, they have questions. You know what I'm saying? And I can say, hey, they're a member. We have memberships. If you get a membership, you can pick where you go. And they just happen to get here late and we're able to pick that last slot. You know what I'm saying? And it happens that way so I can protect myself. Because like I said before, when I start showing favoritism, even if they're some of the most talented people that I know, it doesn't show support. It actually takes away.
Right.
You know, and so once we start creating those professional boundaries with one another and respecting that, we could probably even get a whole lot farther, because then you would have had the professional respect for me to hit me up well in advance to tell me that you're coming. And that's really the bar that I want to see be the standard, you know, where it's less about I'm calling you an hour before the show starts to tell you that, you know, we finna come through there and I want you to, you know, show me love. Because it is, and then I am definitely at fault with this. It happens all the time. Somebody will try to pull a fast one on me, do some stuff like that, and I'll forget. They'll call me before the show. I'm busy. I'm moving couches, tables, chairs. I'm setting up stuff. I'm getting into all the things, and then I look up and they showed up and they're like, "Oh, I thought you put me on the list." I'm like, "Well, if you would have just followed the protocol and procedures, you wouldn't have even have had to worry about me forgetting about you." So, you know, sometimes it's going through those experiences makes it easier to say whether I could do that or I can't do that. You know what I'm saying? But you sitting right now, I'm like, look, I fully anticipate you popping out and showing up and showing love. Curtis, who helped us produce the online series at Hollywood, who did all of the videography and the editing for free and gave us a space, you know what I'm saying? He still paid to come in to the new place. You know what I'm saying? So it's like people, again, like it definitely depends on the relationship. But, you know, in my mind, if I don't have any expectations, you shouldn't have any expectations. Except for the ones that are set for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I pay to get into Hollywood. I would pay to get into your event if you had one that you invited me to. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and I do that also with respect to other people's events, because although we could do that, it's because I don't want them doing that at my event that I don't foresee issue at their events. You know what I'm saying?
Like, I feel you on that. But now, once again, this has been an incredible show that I have been once again looking forward to doing, and I think we definitely delivered.
For sure.
This has been by far the longest smooth conversation, but it was worth it. And I knew it was going to happen because I knew that we had to really touch on a lot of things. And I do want to say to you personally that I thank you for allowing me to help build what WordUp is today.
I thank you for being a part of it.
You know, your trust in me, you allow me to, you know, develop certain skills to get more confident in my ability. But also what was so great about WordUp, it still is, but it allowed me to connect with other people as well, network. And when I see so many other people like Silly Man doing this thing, Larry Green doing this thing, so many other spoken word artists, you know, all these people that Precious doing her thing.
Precious J, yeah.
You know, so many people who came through WordUp and they're doing amazing things. I'm like, oh man, I know these guys. You know what I'm saying? I know them, and we're all still cool. You know what I'm saying? So it wouldn't, if WordUp wasn't in the mix, my connections with a lot of people who are doing big things wouldn't exist. So I have to say to you, thank you. I appreciate you. It's been amazing. and continue blessings for all that you're doing. Because as soon as you put your mind into it, like a Scorpio, you're gonna find a way and make it happen.
We'll find a way.
You know what I'm saying?
From hell or high water.
We're gonna make it happen. And I'm gonna say this right now on Smoooth Conversations. 10 years next year.
Now, technically 10 years is this year, but we celebrated at the top of the year because we started the event later on in the year.
Right. So you do that 10-year show, it'll be an honor for me to be there and DJ.
I think that would be appropriate. So especially in our new space.
Yeah. So let's make that happen. It'll be an honor.
Let's lock it in.
It'll be special. So you heard it here. You heard
Block
it
out that first Tuesday, February.
There you go.
That's right.
Stay tuned. It's gonna be very smooth. That's all I gotta say about it. And that's smooth with 3 O's.
That's all you gotta say.
Did you have any questions for me before we leave?
Oh, questions for you. Wow. So, during our journey together, you had so many transformations. You even, had your firstborn, secondborn baby girl.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, I just was curious as to, how you juggled it all, with all the things that you had going on behind the scenes outside of Tuesdays. What was your greatest challenge being there every week, if you had any? Because you always look like you was having a good time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like it was your way to get out and be, grown, be with the grown folks. And
yeah, I mean, it was a great escape on Tuesday nights for that certain block to be out doing something that I knew that you and I both, had a passion to do. And I always felt like, and I say this to this day, like we always give 110% to these corporations, these businesses that don't care about us, but we don't give more to what we love. So I knew that what I was doing with you was special. But then I knew that at the end, and I had a great run at WordUp, and always had love for it. But I knew that it was a point in time where I felt like I was kind of growing out of it, where I needed to expand my brand. And now you're seeing Smoooth Productions doing a lot of different things now. Shouts out to my crew, Sadal and DJ Steve Jenks. So you brought up earlier how when Lewis came into the play, you was like, well, I ain't got to do the hosting all the time. I can just kind of do DJ or sit back or whatever. So it's same with me. Like I don't have to always DJ. I can interact more. I can do this. I can do that while I have, my guys, hold me down. We're family. We're brothers. You know what I'm saying? Steve told me this today. I love you like a brother. That's what it's all about, But I've always knew that I just wanted to set my path. And that's what I did with my brand. And I was determined to do so. I always felt like I just had that in me. And it was like, well, why should I hold myself back? Not going to let no kind of situation prevent me from doing what I feel like is right. And that's what pushed me the most because I knew that what I was doing was a positive move that's going to give a positive impact. So anything that I touch, anything that I have involved with Smoooth Productions, I'm always being told that it's a positive thing. And as long as I know I'm doing a positive thing, I'm going to keep on doing it. And I'm not going to have no one stop me from doing a positive thing. So that's what keeps me going and hope to leave a legacy in regards to when I'm able to just sit back and like my wife and I'll talk about this. We want to be in a position where, and shouts out to your wife, I love you. But we always say we want to be able to make money while we sleeping. So what can we do to make money while we're sleeping?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
Eliminate the idea of having to be a starving artist.
Yes.
And in the time now where, community, everyone is striving to create community. I think that in some aspects before, I feel like we could have been working backwards. So like we bring the people and then we'll figure it out, But I think that now we're able to see that, people are going to come no matter what we're doing because we've already built that value. We have that. We've already made that investment, so we're always going to be surrounded by a community instead of creating something and then trying to push it out and get it out and be, So it's really cool to me, for
Yeah.
that reality where it's like, hey, you work with us and you've been with us and you grew your network and you were able to pull people in to the platform. And so when you were ready to launch off, you already had so many resources to pull from and to be out in front of, that it allowed for what you were building to already be established because you were already established.
Right.
I feel the same way about some of my other pursuits as well. So
yeah,
I think that's really cool. I think that there's even an opportunity for me to do something even more impactful. But where the universe will see fit to guide me next. If
That's
I choose to make last year the last year, I don't know. We don't know what's to come, but I feel like 10 years has flown by, and then to sit and reflect on being 24, 25 years old with this thing, and coming up on my 36th year this year. It just kind of
youngin.
it's like but it just has you really thinking to yourself. What do I want to show for the time that I've spent building this thing and investing into it, and where do I want to take my next phase of life, and will it stay so closely tied to the platform, or will it truly be what I need it to be, and expand it out from there? Because you got to know, we got to do a tour.
Oh yeah,
we got to do a tour. St. Louis just has so much,
yeah,
even more talent than before.
Yeah.
And just thinking about talent that we saw 10 years ago,
right,
and where they are today,
right.
With the right partnerships and the right maneuvers, we really could, that impact that we made just on our community and the in person could really take itself to a whole nother level. It's just, again, finding, connecting again with that passion and spirit, and being able to not even just evolve, but do it in a way where we all can survive.
Exactly.
Yeah, do it in a way where y'all can survive.
We can survive. We can be happy and have that wealth.
Yes.
Because people always, I want to be rich. I want to make a lot of money, but you want to have wealth. Wealth is so much better than just saying, I want to have so much money. Wealth is overall fulfillment, and we all strive to get there.
Yes.
We all strive to get there. But once again, thank you for taking time out for being on Smoooth Conversations.
Thank you for having me. I didn't know we was gonna be
doing like that, huh? Did you have any special shout outs?
Yes, absolutely. So huge shout outs to my squad, my team, my fam, my gang, Lewis Confliction, DJ Clever, Kamor, and Treasy Baby, and of course J.A., and those who have helped me all along this journey in the last year. It definitely has been beautiful growth, and just to have so many incredible people around me this whole entire time has kept me very grounded and anchored in what my path is and my purpose. And I couldn't ask for anything better than that. I think that overall the experience has been foundational, and I'm just as excited as everyone else is where this is going to go. So I just hope you all continue to support it. Find our website, www.wordupopenmicstl.com. Find out more ways that you can support us and the work that we're doing within the community. We do have a big vision. We'll be making some huge announcements towards the end of the year as far as what that vision is and how you all can get involved with it. But just shout outs to everyone who has come, and everyone who has already reserved tickets to come, and those who are ready, to experience something that St. Louis has to offer that is, not the norm, to think outside the box, to continue to grow our community. And those of you who are listening that are not just supporting our platform with WordUp, but supporting, this platform with Smoooth Conversations. Yes.
Brought to you by Smoooth Productions, Smooth with 3 O's.
Shout out to you.
With that being said, also, scan the QR code, follow everything that's related to Smoooth Productions. You'll see the platform sports talk show. You'll see Smoooth Conversations. You're going to be seeing Smooth Creations with the t-shirt and the hoodie business coming up. You're going to be seeing Smooth Moments with photography and videography. I'm coming, y'all. I'm coming.
Coming in real smooth.
Let's go. Real smooth with it. So Smoooth Conversations, where all the conversations are always smooth. I'm yours truly, Smooth, along with our special guest, InnerGy. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. And
thank you very much.
Privilege.
And y'all have a good one. Stay tuned for the next episode. We out this thing.